shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God won't let them be defeated. Every child has a dream to belong and be loved. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these, when we love the least of these. Break our hearts once again. Help us to remember when we were only children hoping for a friend. Won't you look around? These are the lives that the world has forgotten, waiting for doors of our hearts and our homes to open. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these, when we love the least of these. If not us, who will be like Jesus to the least of these? If not us, tell me who will be like Jesus to the least of these. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love. Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve on their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun? These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear their hearts beating. I know my God won't let them be defeated. Every child has a
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi. This is the 5th month and 23rd day by the heavenly calendar. My name is Tim Elder, and I'm sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, this morning. And I'd like to start, as usual, with the weather in the Cheongguk area this morning. It's a nice and mild 63 degrees, mostly cloudy. And I think we had some rain during the night. It's kind of wet on the ground. And we're getting up to 77 degrees today. Some showers in the morning are going to keep the temperature cool and slightly below normal, but about normal. Tomorrow is going to be a warmer day, probably getting up to the mid-80s, 84 degrees or so. There will also be a thunderstorm tomorrow as well. I want to go through some, the AccuWeather.com has some a weekly wrap-up of weather around the world, and just wanted to go through that just to get an idea of what's going on in the rest of the world. Severe weather swept through the northern U.S. Sunday, that would be last Sunday, creating a path of destruction. Thousands were left without power, and at least 2 people were injured when wind gusts reportedly flipped over a pickup and camper in St. Paul, Minnesota. Large trees and power lines were knocked down. Hail reached up to 2 inches in diameter in both Minnesota and Wisconsin, according to reports. Wind gusts reached as high as 80 miles per hour. Severe storm spawned a tornado near Cheyenne, Wyoming on Monday. Baseball-sized hail fell near Cheyenne and Wheatland, Wyoming. Multiple homes and businesses sustained damage. Tornadoes were also reported in Nebraska. And then in Greece, 10 people were injured and entire buildings were flattened after an earthquake struck the Greek island of Lesbos on Monday. According to local media reports, the mayor of Vrissa said the town looked like it was flattened by bombs. The BBC reported that none of the injuries were life-threatening. The 6.3 magnitude quake was felt as far as Athens and Istanbul. 5 people were killed after a magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck Guatemala on Wednesday, according to the Associated Press. At least 7 people were injured when the quake struck along the Guatemala-Mexico border at 1:29 a.m. local time. 2 people were killed by falling debris, while 3 women suffered heart attacks attributed to the shock of the earthquake, the AP reported. And then in Yellowstone, magnitude 4.5 earthquake hit Yellowstone on Thursday night, according to local police. No damage was reported. Then in New Jersey, 1 girl drowned and another is on life support after being caught up in waves off the coast of Belmar, New Jersey on Thursday. The National Weather Service has issued a moderate riptide risk for the area. No lifeguards were on duty as the official beach season has not yet begun. Officers were called to the scene around 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Record heat swelled over the inland Spain this week. The mercury climbed to 103.1 degrees Fahrenheit, or 39.5 degrees centigrade, Celsius late this week in Madrid, breaking the record high for the month of June, according to the State Meteorological Agency. The previous record was 102.7 Fahrenheit. And a high of 80 degrees Fahrenheit is more common in Madrid this time of year. So that's the wrap-up of news around weather news around the world. I want to go to our Rima today, and I'm in the book of the Gospel of Luke, about the centurion. Luke 7, chapter 7, I'll begin at verse 2. As a certain centurion servant who was dear to him was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them, and when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I am also a man set under authority, having under me soldiers, and I say unto the one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. Of course, the king has preached a sermon, at least one sermon on this, and in that sermon he focused on the fact that the centurion understood Jesus' position as sort of commander-in-chief of the spirit world and everything, because the centurion also was in a position of authority, and he was able to tell a soldier, go, and a soldier would go, and come, and he would come, and he would tell a servant to do this, and he would do that. And the centurion understood that Jesus was in the same position, so that Jesus did not need to come to his house nor to cure his servant, but simply needed to give the word, and the spirit world would do the rest. And Jesus marveled at this man's faith. As I read this, I notice that the centurion sent to Jesus, his messengers to Jesus were actually elders of the Jews. And the Jews went to Jesus and asked him to come. And the Jews testified to the centurion before Jesus. They said, For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. So apparently the centurion had demonstrated his love for Israel, even though he was not a Jew, and he had actually built a synagogue. And so the elders of the Jews said, he's a good guy. He's done all this for us, and he deserves, or he qualifies for you to come to his house. But when Jesus started to go there, he came out and said, No, I don't qualify. He said that he says, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou should enter under my roof. And in fact, he said the whole idea for sending a messenger was that he felt unqualified to go and meet Jesus directly. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. So he said, not only am I not qualified to receive you in my home, I was also not qualified to go and make this request directly to you, and that's why I sent the elders of the Jews, because they are more qualified than I am to meet with you and make this request. So he was a very humble man, and he was apparently respected and loved by the Jewish people in that area. Now, as I look at this in the American Patriots Bible, on the opposite page is an article about Benedict Arnold. And that is there because this is related to Luke chapter 6, verse 16, which is on the previous page, a verse about Judas Iscariot. And just, I don't know if it's coincidence, but it just happens to be on the opposite page of the story about, in Luke 7, about the centurion who was loved, whereas, of course, Benedict Arnold is quite hated, quite frankly, at least in the United States. I understand there's a statue of him in somewhere in the UK, but in the United States, he's quite hated. And if you call someone Benedict Arnold, you better be ready to fight, because it's not a good thing to say to someone. Let me just read this, just in comparison with this, the centurion. Benedict Arnold was considered by many to be the best general and most accomplished leader in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. And without his early contributions to the American cause, some historians feel the American Revolution might have been lost. He secured the vital Lake Champlain route to Canada and led a daring march through the wilderness of Maine to attack Quebec. His heroic actions during the pivotal fighting leading up to the defeat of Burgoyne at Saratoga was key to the American victory, which sealed the French alliance that helped guarantee independence for the country. Thanks in part to his friend George Washington, his rank was adjusted to Major General as of February 1777. But despite being imaginative, daring, and courageous, his name has become a byword for treason in the United States. After marrying a beautiful young British loyalist, Peggy Shippen, getting into deep debt, becoming frustrated over the lack of recognition he received, and being disgusted with the congressional politics, Arnold negotiated his treason with Sir Henry Clinton. Sir Henry Clinton, the British commander, promising to deliver the well-fortified American stronghold at West Point and its 3,000 defenders for 20,300 sterling, about $1 million today, an act that would devastate the American cause. So in here is a list of reasons or background circumstances that led to his treason. This article lists a wife who was not supportive of his cause, deep debt. As we know, debt puts us in slavery, and that was becoming, and then frustration over the lack of recognition he received, so that's kind of a lack of love situation, and being disgusted with congressional politics. Okay, so those were the background, apparently, according to this article, of his treason. And of course, the rest is well known by all Americans. Persuading Washington to place the fort under his command, Arnold moved in September 1780 to execute his treasonous plan. Fortunately, the plot was discovered just before the British attack, but Arnold was able to escape. He was rewarded with a commission as a brigadier general in the British Army, and he served the British with the same dynamic energy and daring, leading devastating attacks and causing much destruction against the Americans. After the war, he returned to England and later died there, virtually unknown. The traitor Benedict Arnold abused his position of authority and trust, being willing to betray the entire war for American independence in order to win his own selfish success. He could have been one of the great heroes of the American Revolution, but selfishness and self-pity are formidable foes. And the American Revolution was a pretty difficult fight. A ragtag militia going up against the superpower of the world. England and France were the two major superpowers of the world at that time. And to objective analysis, it was clear that the British were going to win, and the American cause was not very hopeful. You really had to believe. Really had to have faith in order to fight that war, to put your life, to put your reputation and your fortune on the line in order to commit to that cause. And it was actually the final intervention of the French, frankly, that allowed America to win and to receive the surrender of our British forces in the United States. And ironically, according to this article, it was a Benedict Arnold that helped secure that assistance from the French. He had all these qualities, external qualities, that he was imaginative, daring, courageous, and yet he didn't have faith. And so he wound up being on quite the wrong side of history, and a whole nation today of more than 300 million people equate his name with treason. Whereas this centurion, his name has become synonymous with faith. We don't know how imaginative, daring, or courageous this guy was, but it doesn't really matter to us because Jesus held him up as an example of faith. And so he goes down in history now. We don't even know his name, actually, but he goes down in history as an example of faith, that Jesus said that I have not found faith like this. Where is that? In verse 9, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. Quite a contrast, isn't it? So rather than having these qualities of imagination, daring, and courage, it seems to be more important to have faith. That's the lesson that I received from this Rima this morning. I also have a Rima from the Cheonseongyung. I am on page 325. This is in book 3 on true love, chapter 1. And these words were spoken in 1971. God wants to bestow all of his authority on human beings. To do so, God and human beings must become one based on love. God's ideal of creation is the ideal of oneness. That ideal of oneness, based on love, is the purpose of creation. Thank you very much, Father, for this word this morning. All right, let's take a short break, and we'll come back in a minute with some news from a Cheonrikuk perspective, and I'm going to be joined by a very wonderful guest this morning. You'll be meeting him as well in about 1 minute.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today. Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second King of Cheonrikuk, Hyung Jin Moon, and I'm joined by Mr. Jamal Johnson, a supporter of the King and citizen of Cheonrikuk, and an all-around good guy. Good morning. Morning, Jamal. Thank you for coming out at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's wonderful. Exhilarating, isn't it? Well, Jamal, I don't know what time you went to bed last night. I went to bed pretty early in order to get up, but while we were asleep, at least while I was asleep, something exciting happened in Central Park at the Julius Caesar play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, because this play is still going on, and I'm sure you've heard of it. This is a play where They do a modern interpretation where Julius Caesar is dressed up like Trump and made up like Trump, President Trump, and then he gets assassinated, and a lot of people come up and stab him.
Stab Trump play.
Yeah, it's a Trump play, yes. Well, last night they had some protesters disrupt the play.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Protesters disrupted a New York City stage production of Julius Caesar. I'm reading from the FoxNews.com story right now. Friday. This happened on Friday. That featured a bloody assassination of a character that resembled President Trump. One protester, identified as Rebel Media's Laura Loomer, stormed the stage and shouted, "Stop leftist violence." Another protester, identified as Jack Posobiec, I guess you pronounce that, is that how you...
Yeah, Posobiec. I think he's a good guy.
Oh, okay. Rose to his feet and yelled, "The blood of Steve Scalise is on your hands, and Goebbels would be proud." A video of the incident was quickly posted on social media, and we'll be taking a look at that video in a minute. It showed the crowd booing as an announcement was made that the show was briefly halted. Loomer was arrested, and Posobiec was escorted out of the Shakespeare in the Park Theater complex located in Central Park.
You only live once.
I interviewed, who's I here? I is Todd Starnes, I guess. I interviewed Posobiec by phone at the Central Park Police Precinct, where he was waiting for his colleague to be processed on a criminal trespass charge. We were protesting. What we saw was the normalization of violence, he told me. I couldn't believe they were still going on with the play in light of what happened with the attack on Congressman Scalise. He said it was infuriating to watch the faux assassination of President Trump. This play was savage and brutal. He is stabbed multiple times running around the stage, crawling through blood, he told me. It made my blood run cold seeing Americans cheering a depiction of their president being stabbed 100 times with 100 blades. He said it turned his stomach. This Manhattan Central Park crowd was on their feet cheering. They were cheering as an actor dressed as the president was stabbed to death, he told me. Not all conservatives were cheering the disruption. This is total complete horse crap, a conservative columnist Ben Shapiro wrote on Twitter. She invaded a public performance to obstruct it. She has no right to the stage.
Shapiro.
So let's take a look at this video on YouTube, if I can get it to come up here. And I'm not going to have sound apparently, so I'm going to have to put my mic near my speakers, and hopefully that will help people to see. Let's get this on full screen. Okay, maybe it's not cooperating. Oh, there we go, okay. It's coming. Okay, here we go.
Freedom. Criminalization of political violence against the right. This is unacceptable. You cannot.
Get off the stage.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pause. We're going to pause. Security.
This is violence.
Security, please.
You are all Goebbels. You are all Nazis like Joseph Goebbels. This is Goebbels. You are all Goebbels. You are inciting terrorists. The blood of Steve Scalise is on your hands. The blood of Steve Scalise is on your hands. Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud.
Come this way.
Sir, Goebbels would be proud. Sir, Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud. Nazis. You are Nazis. Please, Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud. Goebbels would be proud.
Okay, so that's it. All right.
The security guard is laughing. He's like smiling.
Rio, did our audience get the audio on that? Okay, he has a thumbs up. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Jamal, maybe you can give me your take on this. What do you think about this?
Once you overcome the fear of sitting the night in jail, you can do quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, if the left figures out how to maneuver their inner demons around, and I heard that Soros, if you do something, he's paying people $25 an hour, but if you do something violent, he'll pay you $50, right? And if you get put in jail, he'll post your bail. So he's taking away the their inhibitions, and he's paid to do it. He's a pretty wise guy because he knows how to manage human beings.
Yeah. In a related story, a Scalise shooter, James Hodgkins, had a list of Republican lawmakers' names in his pocket. It's being reported this morning. The gunman who opened fire on a congressman at a Virginia baseball field on Wednesday had a list of Republican names in his pocket at the time of the incident, Fox News has confirmed.
Wow.
The handwritten list was found in a van belonging to James Hodgkinson by the FBI, and the lawmakers named on the list are known to be conservative members associated with the Freedom Caucus. Representative Scott Desjardins, a Republican of Tennessee, pronounced Desjardins, okay. Representative Scott Desjardins, Trent Franks of Arizona, Jeff Duncan of South Carolina, Jim Jordan of Ohio, Mo Brooks of Alabama, and Morgan Griffith of Virginia, all Republicans. Franks told Fox News Friday on the story with Martha McCullum that he has been notified that he is involved in the investigation, Franks being one of the people who was on the list. Representative Steve Scalise, a Republican of Louisiana, and 4 others were injured in the shooting before U.S. Capitol Police fatally shot Hodgkinson. Investigators believe Hodgkinson, 66, did not have any outside support and acted on his own. Officials also, of course, if you discount the play in New York, officials also said he had a history of run-ins with the law, including arrests for battery and drunken driving. Officials were aware Hodgkinson was living out of a white cargo van in Alexandria for months and was seen showering and working on a computer at a nearby YMCA. Hodgkinson appeared to be a volunteer with Bernie Sanders' failed presidential campaign. The Vermont senator said shortly after the incident in a statement, "I'm sickened by this despicable act," Sanders said in a statement condemning the acts of violence. Condemning all acts of violence. And that kind of makes me wonder, is he also condemning the act of violence by the police that stopped the shooter?
No, of course not.
Well, he says condemning all acts of violence.
No, he doesn't really mean that.
Okay. Investigators were looking into why Hodgkinson came to Washington, D.C. area in the first place and how much premeditation was involved. Because apparently he was from where? He was from... I can't recall, but he's not from the D.C. area, yeah. News that the government had a list of names on him at the time of the shooting suggests that it wasn't a random incident, but instead was a premeditated attempt to kill the politicians. I was wondering, how was it that the guy who happened to be the highest-ranking person on the field was the one that got hit, was the one that got most seriously injured? Scalise was, is the minority whip, which makes him the, you have right now you have the speaker who is the top Republican, and then you have the majority leader who was the second Republican, and then you have the whip, which is kind of the assistant majority leader. So he's pretty high in the Republican leadership, and it's because he's in a leadership position, because Scalise is in a leadership position, that he always has 2 policemen, Capitol Police, going with him. It's only because he was there that the police were there and they could kill this guy. I've
noticed that evil will get to a point where, since you can't prove it to all the, I guess, the people who are on the fence, it will taunt you and lie in your face. And so they know that people that are really sharp and aware know that it's not random. But they also know that the people that are sharp and aware can't convince or prove it. Prove that it's premeditated. Prove that it's a psychological operation. They can't prove it. So they go, yeah, it was just random. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. You can't prove it to all them. So.
And the guy's dead now, so he's not going to be put on trial. So I guess there won't be such a, I don't know Well, there will be an investigation, but I don't know how much of the information is going to be made public. This information was made public that there was this list of names, and so if there had been a trial, that would have been very important evidence to show premeditation to kill not only one man, but to kill a whole lineup of people.
I think we have to assume that it could be premeditated and then just war game it and ask why. You know, why would they do this? It would be for a psychological operation to get us angrier. Possibility.
Well, I think it's frustration. You know, we just talked about Benedict Arnold. Part of his reason for treason was frustration. But the Democrats lost the election in November, and they tried to pin it on the Russians, and that with Comey that fell through. And they're losing the logical arguments, and so there's frustration.
So it's pure revenge.
Yeah, well, frustration, I think. Yeah. Of course, if this guy were a Bernie Sanders supporter, he could have gone after a Clinton person, because after all, the Democratic nomination was pretty much stolen by Hillary.
It's kind of like a message, like you see what you get. No. You see what you get for screwing us, kind of like that.
But there has been a civil war going on in America. Until now, it was not a hot civil war, but now the left has fired the first shot, and we need to certainly be very much aware of that. And the king is emphasizing that point. He's been emphasizing that point in the King's reports, and there's no connection to Islam, but we are in the month of Ramadan, and a lot of bad things seem to be happening in the month of Ramadan.
It always seems to be the month of Ramadan.
But I don't know if next month is going to be any better. We have about a week left in the month of Ramadan. I think it ends a week from today. So I've been asking people to please stay away from crowds and don't let the terrorists run up their body count, whether they be Islamic terrorists or leftist terrorists. The two are allied right now in order to crush Christ and bring about a centralized authority. So let's stay alive and get through this period of judgment and build God's kingdom on this earth. We'll be coming back with more news from a Tony Group perspective in just a minute.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for Hyung Jin Moon, the second king of Chanuguk, and I'm here with Jamal Johnson this morning. And I want to go now to a story on Fox News where Judicial Watch is seeking documents, quote, unlawfully removed, unquote, by Comey. So let's see what that's all about. Conservative watchdog Judicial Watch is calling on acting FBI Andrew McCabe to recover and release federal records and memos it claims were unlawfully removed by former Director James Comey, threatening the FBI with a lawsuit should the Bureau not comply. Tim Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, penned a letter to McCabe on June 14th, warning of a potential violation of the Federal Records Act, which is the basis for the federal government's policies regarding the creating, maintaining, and disposing of federal records. As you may be aware, the Federal Records Act imposes, this is a quotation from Fitton, imposes a direct responsibility on you to take steps to recover any records unlawfully removed from the FBI, Fitton wrote in the letter, claiming Comey unlawfully removed memos that could contain contents regarding the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Quote, upon learning that records have been unlawfully removed from the FBI, you then are required to initiate action through the Attorney General for the recovery of records, unquote. The FBI told Fox News that they have no comment on the letter from Fitton. Quote, we're looking to get action on the records that Comey unlawfully took from the FBI, and we know initially there are memos, but but depending on what the nature of the documents are, there could be liabilities for Mr. Comey, unquote, Fitton told Fox News. The memos in question were written by Comey himself, leaving unclear how the FBI or the courts would view them. Judicial Watch insists they are official records. Well, I guess, if he wrote them as director of the FBI, I can see how that would be true.
Historical.
Earlier this month, Comey testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee, we know about that, that he gave one of his memos regarding a meeting with President Trump to a friend, I see, who then leaked it to the New York Times. Fitton said the case of Comey removing documents from the FBI is the Hillary Clinton email scandal all over again. But retired FBI special agent and former national FBI spokesman John Iannarelli told Fox News that he didn't see the case. The things Comey allegedly took are not classified, Iannarelli said. The issue is not him taking documents, but the matter of how he released them, classified or not. There is a procedure in doing that which he did not follow.
Who said that?
This is the retired FBI special agent and former national FBI spokesman.
Okay, so he's minimizing.
He's minimizing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's like when Sandy Berger took those documents. You had, I think it was Rush. He put a montage of all the news personalities, coast to coast, going sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. Sandy Berger did something very sloppy today. He put National Archives in his underwear and walked out of it. He put the documents in his underwear, and they help him by characterizing it as sloppy.
Sloppy. Well, that's said about Hillary too, right? She was also sloppy.
Oh, yeah, sloppy. Sloppy. If it was a guy on the right, they'd be like, he stole.
Yeah.
She exposed national secrets. So you're slick with those characterizations, make people feel all soft inside towards a criminal. Oh, he's just so sloppy, kind of like a kid. You give him a slap on the hand, pat him on the butt, let him go play outside again.
So in 2004, it was revealed by the U.S. Justice Department that the Justice Department was investigating Berger for unauthorized removal of classified documents in October 2003 from a National Archives reading room prior to testifying before a 9/11 commission. The documents were 5 classified copies of a single report commissioned from Richard Clark covering internal assessments of the Clinton administration's handling of the unsuccessful 2000 Millennium attack plots.
Yeah.
In 2005, he pled guilty, and he was fined $50,000, sentenced to serve 2 years of probation and 100 hours of community service, and stripped of his security clearance for 3 years.
I never heard that. They kind of must have put that on page 53 because his bad behavior, but it's not even, I guess, dragged around in the public eye as bad behavior.
Yeah.
I just thought they let him off because it wasn't so bad. I didn't even hear about the 2 years probation.
Well, he was stripped of his security clearance for 3. I mean, for a guy like this, being stripped of your security clearance is like, that's really hard, right? I mean, it's the security clearance that allows them to have access to all sorts of information, and it's the access to information that really defines their personal worth.
Hey, you and I are on the same team, and one of our guys did dirt, but we're not gonna let the public find out
Right,
that
right,
we
right.
really think that
Right.
he did dirt. We'll
Right.
just kind of punish him
Right.
silently.
Right. Yeah. So that's going on, and I want to start going through the headlines now. Top of Drudge, of course, on the left has the interruption of the assassination play. U.S. destroyer collides with a cargo ship. 7 Navy sailors are missing. This is just a straight story. I don't see much point in going through this too much, but it does. I am troubled by one aspect of it. 7 U.S. sailors are unaccounted for after a Navy destroyer collided with a merchant ship southwest of Yokosuka, Japan, early Saturday local time, the Navy said. Now, listen to this. The USS Fitzgerald, a 505-foot destroyer, collided with a Philippine container vessel at approximately 2:30 a.m. Saturday local time, about 56 nautical miles off of Yokosuka, the U.S. 7th Fleet said. So, take that, all right, 2:30 in the morning. 2 ships on the wide sea,
Pitch black.
pitch black, collide. Aren't they supposed to have radar?
Sonar? Radar?
Well, sonar, I think, looks down.
Oh, and
but
then water.
yeah, I mean, they're supposed to have radar. Both ships, I think, should have radar. Even the container ships certainly should have radar. And I can understand the container ship maybe being asleep at the wheel, but a U.S. Navy destroyer allowing itself to be struck pretty much right on the middle of the starboard side by a merchant vessel. I mean, come on, who was at the radar scope then? And who was,
Right.
obviously someone was asleep at the wheel. And that causes me concern about the training level of training of the U.S. Navy.
Right. Well, if you have to ramp it up really fast because the previous administration dumbed down the military as much as he could, you're going to have problems like that. You know, I hear the most seasoned generals are the ones that Obama put into conflict. You know, forcing them to resign. You know, making it really worth their while to resign. So, all that wisdom leaves with those particular people. You know, but it's good. It's good to have this mistake under these circumstances rather than worse circumstances.
I hope that people look at this and decide to take a look at the level of training and what was going on. I mean, was everybody asleep on this ship then? Is the audience seeing this photograph, Rio, on my screen? Okay, this is a photograph of the Fitzgerald where it was rammed amidships here on the starboard side, and here below you see a photograph of the Philippine container ship. It's actually not damaged all that much. It's got some, obviously it has some damage there on its bow, but it's quite seaworthy. Whereas the Fitzgerald, you can see, it's going to need some repairs pretty quickly before it can go back into service.
Nasty little event, huh?
Yeah, and I just, he just hit it right square in the middle there on the starboard side.
Maybe they're testing the metal.
Anyway, it says that here, Admiral John Richardson, Chief of Naval Operations, is saying in a statement, U.S. and Japanese support from the Navy Maritime Self-Defense Force and Coast Guard are in the area to ensure that sailors on USS Fitzgerald have the resources they need to stabilize their ship. As more information is learned, we will be sure to share it with the Fitzgerald families and when appropriate, the public. Thank you for your well wishes and messages of concern. All our thoughts and prayers are with the Fitzgerald crew and their families, Richardson said. I hope they have some thoughts and prayers about the level of readiness for these our Navy ships at 2:30 in the morning. Someone fell asleep, I think. Someone fell asleep there. and that causes me great concern.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Not supposed to happen.
Vigilance is a game.
Right. Yeah. Right now, President Trump is trying to ramp up the number of ships in the Navy, but I hope he's also able to ramp up the level of training and discipline.
Right.
ISIS claims fatal stabbing of Israeli policewoman. There we go. We're still in the month of Ramadan. Swamp. President Pence talk grows louder. Mueller hires army. Leak flood continues. Could Illinois be the first state to file for bankruptcy?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Before Cali?
I guess there's a race on. California, of course, has voted to have a single-payer, health insurance without figuring out how they're going to pay for it. So the payer hasn't got any money.
Wow.
But anyway, this is about Illinois. And they're asked, so that's why it's a question, no? Is it going to be the first state to file for bankruptcy? Maybe it's going to be the second state. I don't know.
I like Illinois. I remember, because I hate seatbelt laws and cell phone laws. I just feel like, okay, I hate them. And when I lived in Chicago, they wouldn't give you a cell phone ticket unless they caught you swerving or otherwise driving improperly. Or if you got caught in an accident or tapped somebody or anything that you got caught doing that's a violation, like unsafe lane change or failing the signal lane change, then they'll give you the cell phone ticket, so you get 2 tickets. So I'm almost like they were kind of reasonable, like, okay, yeah, people that don't know how to talk on their cell phone will make problems.
Obviously, that's why they're going bankrupt. They weren't collecting these tickets.
Oh, they weren't doing enough. Entrapment.
But that may be a minor cause that they let Jamal Johnson get away with a cell phone.
Well, at least they're telling themselves the truth. Right?
Well, we'll
if
see.
you're going for bankruptcy, you're saying, okay, we can't handle our stuff anymore.
But I think under U.S. law, it says here, states cannot declare bankruptcy under current U.S. law, but Congress may change that. Because we already had the example of Puerto Rico. You know what's going on in Puerto Rico. They declared bankruptcy recently.
Okay, okay.
But they're not a state.
Yeah.
They're a territory.
Right.
And then in Puerto Rico, after declaring bankruptcy, they voted to become a state.
Yeah, sure.
Congress has the final say on that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's like a woman that lost her husband promoting polygamy.
okay.
Because she wants to be taken in by another previously married couple.
Let's look at Illinois. Illinois residents may feel some solidarity with the likes of Puerto Rico and Detroit. A financial crunch is spiraling into a serious problem for Illinois lawmakers, prompting some observers to wonder if the state might make history by becoming the first to go bankrupt. At the moment, it's impossible for a state to file for bankruptcy protection, which is only afforded to counties and municipalities like Detroit. And in case of Puerto Rico too, they had to sort of make a end run around the law in order for Puerto Rico to become bankrupt. Or it's not technically not bankruptcy. But it's
I
the
see.
same
So
thing.
you're really not allowed to.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. States are not allowed to go bankrupt. Yeah.
that's important. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
But Chapter 9 bankruptcy protection could be extended to states if Congress took up the issue, although Stanford Law School professor Michael McConnell noted in an article last year that he believed the precedents are iffy for extending the option to states. Nevertheless, Illinois is in a serious financial pickle, which is why radical options such as bankruptcy are being floated as potential solutions.
Remember Too Big to Fail with the
Yes.
banks? And everybody was like, oh, you should let them collapse. But they wouldn't.
Yeah. Ratings agency Moody's Investor Service earlier this month downgraded Illinois' general obligation bonds to its lowest investment grade rating, citing the state's growing pile of unpaid bills and its mounting pension deficit. Illinois, by the way, has the lowest credit rating of any state. Lower ratings mean higher borrowing costs, since lenders view such borrowers as riskier bets. That was a situation where, too big to fail. People didn't want the federal government or any other government helping those banks or by giving them capital.
Well, they call it corporate welfare, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the idea, it's the unscientific idea that our bad experiments are disallowed, right? Like,
Right.
how many times did Edison have a bad light bulb? I mean, you got to let it happen.
Yeah.
And then you learn. But they're disrupting that process.
Well, bankruptcy also would be kind of the same because creditors basically lose lots of money in bankruptcy. The debts are written off and stuff like that. And so that's why now the Moody's is downgrading the bonds issued by Illinois, the debt bonds, because that means that the Moody's is not so sure that people are going to get their money
Get
back.
paid, yeah.
And what we don't want is the federal government stepping in and say, that's okay, we'll pay those. That's what we don't want. So bankruptcy would not allow that. But what, too big to fail would say, the federal government would pay those bonds.
Okay, so honestly speaking, the taxpayers on the hook way beyond what's reasonable. If a newborn baby owes $50,000, okay, then we've passed where it's impossible now.
Yeah.
So we sold our behind. You got to sell something, right? I mean, you got to back that with something.
Yeah.
I think that's why. I mean, you could say, but spiritually, I think that's why all the sex trafficking, because one thing that Western women are known as, they're like the icons of I don't know, beauty, right? So it's like somebody's gonna be like, okay, let's not destroy America because Marilyn Monroe and like images of Scarlett Johansson, and like, okay, there's some value there, so we'll trade you, but that's not legal. so let's keep this sex trafficking under, right? And that's why all the sex trafficking, they're saying, is going back to D.C. Because why wouldn't our the people we owe money be mad? Because we're so sunk already. But they're not mad. Why not? How come they're not up in arms? Must be some under the table balancing going on. I think it has to do with sex trafficking.
Okay. Let's continue here. With legislative gridlock has sidetracked efforts not only to address pension needs, but also to achieve fiscal balance, allowing a backlog of bills to approach $15 billion, or about 40% of the state's operating budget, the agency noted. Wow, that's a lot of 40% of your operating budget is your payables. That's a big payables account.
Yeah.
As noted by the Physical Times, Illinois is the only state that's been operating without a balanced and complete budget for almost 2 years.
Yeah, you owe money, then the other guy's going to go, oh, you can't pay? Well, I'm sure we could work something out.
Well, I wonder what kind of assets does the state of Illinois own? I imagine they have something they can sell.
Assets.
Assets.
That's what I'm saying. It's ultimately going to come down to that.
We're like a banana republic.
Look. Somebody sold out Europe. You think those women are getting raped? Somebody said, go ahead and rape them to balance this. It's like a loan shark, right? So the loan shark, and so you owe them, okay, I'm going to charge you 50%. Okay, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it this week. Well, how's your wife? How's your daughter? Well, I can't. I'll lose my wife. Look, we'll just do it this way. She'll be walking down the street, and you'll say nothing. And that's what's going on in Europe right now. They're paying it in assets, sets of asses.
I'm looking for a list of more mundane assets, but here, give me. You're getting me off track.
I'm sorry.
We're like a banana republic, but there you go, banana republic. We can't manage our money, Governor Bruce Rauner said after the Illinois legislature failed to produce a full 2017 budget earlier this month. The situation has prompted comparisons with Puerto Rico, which earlier this year announced a historic restructuring of some of its $70 billion in debt through courts after negotiations with bondholders failed. Like Puerto Rico, Illinois has a massive pension crisis. Its unfunded pension liability for the state's 5 major plans grew 25% alone in 1 year, which reaching $251 billion, according to Moody's. On a per-household basis, the state's pension debt burden stands at $27,000, according to the conservative-leaning Illinois Policy Institute. So how did the state's pension balloon into such a crisis? First, the pension problem has been a long time in making. The state has more than 660 government pension funds, which are sometimes called defined benefit plans because they promise workers will receive a specific pension when they retire. But critics say some of those pensions carry overly optimistic assumptions, especially given periods of market turmoil like the global financial crisis, which ate into investment returns. The state's General Assembly wasn't required to fully fund pensions, which meant tax money was spent on other priorities such as schools or infrastructure. The result? Growing unfunded liabilities or money promised to workers in their pensions when they retire that the state doesn't have. Other contributing factors include inadequate employer contributions and benefit increases, according to the Civic Foundation. Adding to the state's financial pain is a shrinking tax base. For the last 3 consecutive years, Illinois has lost residents. Its population is now at its lowest in a decade. Tepid wage growth on top of fewer residents puts a strain on the state's ability to grow its tax revenue. And Puerto Rico had the same problem, where people are just they're U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico. They don't need a visa or anything. They get U.S. passports, and so they just come to the mainland. If they're in Puerto Rico, they have to take responsibility for this huge debt, and also they can't vote for president. They don't have representation in Congress.
Right.
But if they just move to the mainland, they can do all that. They become residents of Georgia or whatever. So I guess Illinois people are doing the same. They're moving out of the state. They say, hey, we don't want to live in a state that has this kind of a huge debt, and then that reduces the tax base, and so it makes it more difficult for Illinois to handle it. It's not unprecedented for a state to default on its debt. Arkansas defaulted in 1933 as it struggled to repay debt during the Great Depression. Spending on an ambitious road-building project and a series of natural disasters heightened the southern state's problems back then. But let's see. But I don't know if they're going to actually vote to extend bankruptcy to states. That would be interesting if that happens. Otherwise, I guess if they don't do that, then I guess just people who are expecting pensions won't get those pensions.
It's going to come to it.
Yeah.
We're going to hit the wall.
Yeah, and people who are expecting to get repaid on their bonds are not going to get their money back.
We're going to hit the wall. If you don't hit the wall, something else happened secretly.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
So, of course, in the Chunuk Constitution, the federal government, at least, is not allowed to borrow in peacetime to fund the general operation of the government. And also, since government revenue is restricted to 10% of the gross domestic product, if you have a small government, you really can't have a big, even if you go into debt in wartime, it's allowed to go into debt in wartime. But if the private sector is large, then there is the ability to repay that, debt. But in this case, there's a small tax base, or a smaller, shrinking tax base, both in Puerto Rico and in Illinois. And after all, it's the private sector that eventually comes up with the money to repay debt like this.
That's where God is.
Yeah, that's right. That's where God is. Yeah.
God gives the increase. So if you're going to fare well against a foe in a battle on the battlefield, it'll be because of God. And if you're like, oh, we're gonna throw every woman and we're gonna put guns in the hands of 12-year-olds, we're not giving up. No, at some point you got to realize God wasn't with you, and you got to be relying on God, as a nation.
By the way, I like your crown this morning.
Oh, thank you. I made it in my garage.
You made it in your garage.
Yeah. I got local here is a really good steel mill. So you get steel at less than 25% of what you'll get sheets of steel at Lowe's, like right here in Scranton.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I get a sheet 4 by 8 feet for $50. 14 gauge. Yeah, it's great. It's great living in Pennsylvania.
And you cut that and made that.
Yeah,
Great.
angle grinder, $30, or at Harbor Freight, which is over here in Scranton. It's great living here. I mean, oh gosh, I mean, if you want to like invent and like get materials, like, and you ain't got no money, come here. I mean, it's very exciting. Like my garage is a very exciting place. When I'm on my garage addiction kick, I'll stay in there in the middle of winter. I'll be freezing my bones off like this. I won't eat. I skip breakfast. I skip lunch. You know, and I'll be working on my stuff like hobby culture. You know.
Well, let's go through a couple more headlines before we break for the hour. Cosby fate, jury back Saturday. Are you following this at all? 50 hours. 50 hours with no verdict. I'm not following it. Are you?
Ooh, I heard that. Quick headline because they're deceptive many times, but I heard that his defense attorney damn near gave up. I saw a headline the other day.
Yeah. Only called one witness or something, and very, very short defense. Yeah. But the jury is taking a long time, though. They've been deliberating now for 50 hours, I guess, according to this headline, and still can't come up with a verdict.
Amazing.
Anyway, yeah, I'm not following that either. It's a very tragic situation. Venezuela mob kicks, burn, thieves, and lynching epidemic. Socialism at work, I guess. Experts warn e-cigs can become hacking tools.
Can we go back to Cosby?
Cosby, all right. Want to take a look at that?
Well, just the whole Cosby story. For me, I think the tragedy is the image that they built up with the Cosby Show. That's what's being smashed. Whether he's actually guilty or not, that's what's being smashed. Like goodness doesn't pay, or goodness is real. You know, is because if you had an image to look up to as a young black person who was in a single parent home, and you were going to look up to this marriage thing that you keep hearing about, and you haven't seen it modeled, and then you turn on TV and you see it being modeled, right? And that causes you to turn your rudder and aim towards something that it's not a sure bet, but at least it looks viable. You know, because you don't see a lot of marriages in the black community. So if somebody's like saying, well, you know, this is a cash cow, having single parent homes in the black community is making somebody money. The abortion clinics, you know, more than 65% of black babies were aborted in the tri-state area.
Tri-state being?
Jersey, Connecticut, New York City area. But that's high volume. And so in other words, the whole hardship of normal living, traditional family, okay, the whole independence. I mean, that's too people are too free when they have a mom and dad, and totalitarians don't like that. So they really don't like the family because you don't need them. And so whether Cosby is guilty or not, what's being dragged through the mud, the worst thing about it is this image that people were very thankful for, that the Cosby Show did what it did for those kids from single parent homes.
So, but you're not making a judgment as to whether he's guilty.
No,
because we don't really know it, I guess. So,
no, but it's still having this effect.
Right, it still has that effect. Yeah. So that's tragic. not only for black families, but for black children, but for everyone. That this, 'cause I think it was one of the few cases on television where there was a depiction of a healthy family.
Yeah,
healthy
you weren't
family
making
life.
fun of the idiot dad.
Right.
He was quirky, but you knew he could just turn it on and off.
Right. He was
totally
more or
in
less the
control of
wise,
it,
the
yeah.
wise father, and the father who would earn and take responsibility for his family, and knew how to solve problems within the family
Yeah.
through his quirkiness sometimes. Yeah. All right. So the jury there is going to be working again today, trying to come up with a verdict, and he was once known as America's dad. It says here.
Yeah. See
Yeah.
what I mean?
But he did admit in an unsealed deposition more than a decade ago that he had Quaaludes to give to women for sex, and that he gave the Temple basketball staffer at least 2 Benadryl, supposedly for stress. Cosby has always insisted the incident in question was consensual. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's take a break now. We'll take a 5-minute break and come back with more news.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name.
To belong and be loved. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your magic.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in today for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, and I'm joined this morning with Mr. Jamal Johnson, who's helping me go through these stories. Let's look at this story about Venezuela, where I don't know how much worse it can become before it finally collapses, but the news today is that there's a lynching epidemic. Venezuela mobs kick, burn thieves, and lynching epidemic. Caracas, AFP story, swearing in fury, the crowd strips the man naked and stomps on his head as he sprawls on the ground. You want things that come easy? Then take this, you bastard. In Venezuela, this is what robbers get when they are caught by passers-by. It is not just the country's economic and political system that are sick, but society itself, experts say. An epidemic of lynchings is one of the most gruesome symptoms.
Wait. They are dealing with robbers and outlaws or by themselves.
Yes.
Probably because there's no police to
Probably,
do it, right?
Yep.
And they're characterizing that as
Lynching.
degradation.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like frontier justice, right? No? I mean, so what do you expect? If your system collapses, people are going to go back to like the older organic systems.
They're going to take responsibility for justice themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how are you going to characterize that as bad? What the hell do you expect?
I guess there is no due process, I suppose. There is no due process here. And if the punishment fitting the crime, if you kill a man for stealing a loaf of bread, is that?
I bet you when it's kept local, due process is a very short process. Because, I mean, like, who do you have to, like, extend proof, right, to non-local people? Well, you don't have that burden because everybody saw that crap, you know? I don't know.
It says here that there was a woman, a man tried to rob a woman at a gunpoint in a bakery, and then the mob took over, and then their aim is to kill the person before the police arrive, says Marco Ponce, coordinator of the Venezuelan Social Conflict Observatory. And the body says some 60 people were recorded as killed in lynchings in the first 5 months of this year alone. Last year, there were 126 such killings, a surge from the 20 reported in the previous year, coinciding with the worsening of political tensions and economic chaos. But even, there has to be some system of justice. There have to be courts, and you can have a peace police, peace militia. You can have peace police, but to have the police act as not just police but also as a judge and jury and executioner, that's going beyond what the Cheongguk Constitution has in mind.
What would it be like? Let's say you get to the point where you realize, okay, your formal government is just there on paper. And everybody has agreed that it doesn't work.
So that's why then you need some kind of a new constitution or a new framework for society. And right now, that may come. Right now Venezuela is descending into chaos, and I actually don't mind chaos because I think out of chaos something new can emerge.
Oh, we should have people hand out the Cheongguk Constitution down there.
In Spanish, yeah.
And say, hey, here's an alternative.
Well, to do that, you have to be able to defend it.
Well, they already got the balls to do that.
Maduro is handing guns to his supporters, and common people are not allowed to have guns, but the supporters of Maduro
but
are
they're
allowed.
bashing the guy, the gunman in the store, the woman, and right? They're already defending.
The guy who tried to rob the woman. Yes.
I mean, it didn't. They didn't need firearms, right? They just needed a stick and a foot, right?
Well, let's have courts. Let's have courts.
I agree.
Yeah.
But so my point is, you said they need to defend the Cheongguk Constitution.
Yes.
You said enforce it, right?
Well, no, you need to not defend the Constitution. We need to have a territory land that you can defend, territory, land that you can defend, and then you can say that we have sovereignty over this land.
Okay.
Having sovereignty means then that you can establish your own constitution, your own laws. But you have to have sovereignty. That's why, in the American Revolution and independence, America could not have a constitution until it became independent from the British Constitution.
What you just told me
Yep.
is they need to get blessed and get crowned because when the real estate under this crown is Chunaguk property.
But you're still paying taxes to the U.S. federal government and to the state of Pennsylvania, and so forth and so on. So I would say that in that sense, we don't have sovereignty here. Here we have in this land here we have land, right? And we have citizens, but we don't have sovereignty because we are under the sovereignty of Wayne County and of Pennsylvania and of the United States government. So that's why in the future, and I don't know how this is going to come about. But in the future, there will be a piece of land that we will have the means to defend. And then based on that ability to defend that piece of land, we'll be able to claim sovereignty and be able to institute our own constitution and our own laws.
Well, I'm sovereign.
You're sovereign.
That's right. So when I got a speeding ticket, I went in there and I looked at cop in the face. I still had to pay $138. But I went and looked at him in the face and I said, did I harm a person? Because actually the definition of crime is harm to persons or property, right? I said, did I harm a person? No. Did I harm somebody's property? No. I said, so you were hiding behind that mound of dirt to protect me? I said, were you protecting me from a deer? Were you protecting me from a tree? And I'm like looking at him, mano y mano. I'm saying, you really were protecting me? And I let him understand that you actually violated me as a free man for this money-making racket. And I know it. So, continue.
Bottom line, you paid $138.
Bottom line, I prayed to God. I said, I'm being threatened by this system. And then I knew that God would... If Father says, if you stand strong, right, and you get persecuted, and you take it, you offer it to God, then God can act. I'm sovereign. So I just give it to Big Daddy. I give it to Big Daddy. I say, okay, Big Daddy, this is bigger than me. But you said, I could look at you, Father, and say, you said, Father said. So if I give it to you, and I was attacked by this system, you've got to do something against this system. So that's every time you hit me. I used to love getting the door slammed in my face fundraising because I knew at the end of the day I'm going to be in some kind of miracle windfall. I'm like, oh, they slammed the door in my face. So I'm sovereign. I'm sovereign. If you don't recognize I'm sovereign, that's your problem. See, if there was one church member, right? He decided to believe that he was sovereign, and he decided to fight something in his town. I don't know the guy. I just remember the story. Because he decided to fight, then he could actually take offense. When he took offense, God moved and quickly cycled out all the officials in the town until the problem that was bothering him got fixed. And he attributes that to standing on Father's claim that he's already a tribal Messiah. So he decided to act like it.
Here in the preamble of the Chunaguk Constitution, I'm looking at it online now, it says that it is upon this future anticipation that I, Hyungjin Moon, and then skipping down, hereby declare that all the peoples of the Kingdom of Heaven, Chunaguk, are the sovereign children of Almighty God. But here it says it is upon this future anticipation that he is making this declaration. And this future anticipation is a future nation that does not exist. In the first sentence it says, Chunaguk, the Kingdom of God, a sovereign and actual nation, does not yet exist in the world. But is the long-awaited culmination of the end times as prophesied
But the king,
in the Bible script, biblical scripture.
The king also said, I think it was in a recent Q&A, that problems that we have,
Mhm.
that we are expected,
Mhm.
we were implored to use the Constitution.
Mhm.
It's active now.
The Constitution is not yet in place. We are.
He said, if you have a problem, use the Constitution. Use it.
Well,
Use it. He said, right?
As a kind of reference, I would say, you know, the Constitution is not a legally binding document right now,
You mean in America?
and anywhere.
Isn't it here in the church? At
No,
least?
no,
Oh,
no.
really?
It's a reference.
Okay.
That's my understanding. You can check with him, but it is a reference.
Mhm.
The Constitution expresses a certain culture. It is based on certain assumptions that are different from the assumptions that we've had until now, such as not depending on the government and so forth and so forth, and this idea of being.
Okay, how about in
but
front of-
it's a reference. But
How about in front of the throne of God? I go and complain in front of the throne of God. Does he treat me like, yeah, but that's not active yet?
well, the word, Ten Commandments, that's active.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 Commandments are active.
Isn't the Constitution active?
It says here that this is a sovereign and actual nation, does not yet exist in this world, but is the long-awaited culmination of the end times.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it
it's
says
not yet
citizens
active.
are. It doesn't say citizens will be. It says citizens are. So in other words,
Upon this future anticipation.
fine.
But there is no Choniguk right now. So
I'm
without
actually-
there is no without having Choniguk right now, we cannot have citizens of Choniguk right now.
I'm a citizen of Chonoguk.
And where is Choniguk?
Right under my crown.
In your crown. But it's not sovereign.
It's sovereign.
It's not sovereign. It's not sovereign in
Let
a
me show you,
material
like
sense.
12 inches between my 2 feet. That's holy ground.
That 12 inches between your 2 feet is under the sovereignty of the United States of America.
No, I defy that.
Well, you can defy it all you want. They've got more guns than you do.
I'm not that big of a threat yet. But I used to know this guy. He was in the Moorish Nation, right? He lived down the block. I don't know that much about Moorish Nation, but he had his own.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
Well, he had his own license plate, and he had diplomatic immunity. The guy lived 2 doors from me. He had a fez, like he was in a lodge all the time, like he was the Grand Poobah, right? And he would be in his fez all the time, and he'd be preaching, "I'm in the Moorish Nation. You're an American, not me." And he would use the word sovereign. He said, "I'm sovereign," and he goes, "My car's sovereign. You see those license plates?" And he goes, "I have diplomatic immunity." He'd whip out this card and he'd say, "You see that card? If I get stopped for speeding, no, I'm dead serious. I don't know what happened to this guy. I mean, I don't know what happened to these people."
I would like to know what happened to him, how far his diplomatic community actually got him. But anyway, right now, I brought up on my screen a map of tribal nations in North America. Now, the Native Americans, they can claim sovereignty, all right, because by treaty, which were largely ignored in the past, but perhaps are being a little bit more recognized now, they have sovereignty.
What gives them the power to claim sovereignty formally?
Treaties that they established with the government of the United States of America.
So I bet you this guy in the Moorish Nation had the benefit of some kind of a treaty.
I doubt that very much. Let's look up Moorish Nation.
Look, I'm telling you, the guy drove around with some kind of weird license plates with symbols on it.
You know,
I mean, what, he'd get a ticket every day of his life?
okay, here's the Moorish Science Temple of America. Is that what we're talking about? Moorish Nationals, religious group or opportunists, CBS News. Oh, here we go. This is an article written in 2013, and it appears on CBS News. But let's take it just out of curiosity. You may not have heard of Moorish nationals. Yeah. But police have. Members claim to follow Moorish science rooted in a black religious group that's been around for nearly a century, and most of its members obey the law, but not everyone. In an exclusive corner of Bethesda, Maryland, there's a 35,000 square foot mansion with 12 bedrooms, 17 bathrooms, and trees planted by former President Bill Clinton and Vice President Al Gore. On the market for nearly $6 million, it's not exactly a steal. So imagine real estate agent Jordan Feinberg's surprise when he learned someone had moved into the vacant property. The owner calls me again and says the neighbor called. There are people inside the house claiming they own the house. And I'm like, what? Said Feinberg. Lamont Butler, also known as Lamont Maurice L., claimed the mansion for himself. He even provided documents issued by the so-called Moorish National Republic to back it up. It's a burglary in the purest sense, said Feinberg. Across the country, Butler and many other self-styled Moorish nationals have laid claim to property and status they say is lawfully theirs because their ancestors were here first.
Okay, freeze.
Okay, frozen.
When they don't like something,
Uh-huh.
they depict the worst parts of it. Like when they don't like, I'm an abstinence educator. When
Okay.
they don't like abstinence,
Okay.
they try to find the worst statistics from the region, and then they don't even compare it to adjacent regions.
Okay.
They just spotlight the worst. Okay. So
Okay.
I can't remember, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. But he wasn't doing that. He wasn't squatting in somebody's house.
Okay. All right, but here we go. Here come the license plates. Anyway, it says that the Moorish nation teaches that all black Americans are Moorish Americans descended of an ancient Moroccan global empire, an idea some followers have taken one step further. So you don't have to get a license plate or a driver's license, and you can lay claim to property, said Spencer Dew, an assistant professor at Centenary College of Louisiana. Dew, who studies the movement, says Moorish Americans have long taken pride in being American citizens, but as the group splintered over the decades, some offshoots abandoned that view. So there are different people within this thing. So I would say that this, is pretend sovereignty. I'm sorry.
You call it that. Yeah, you call it that until it's real. Right? Internal to external, right? So you got to put the nuts to it first.
Now, Native Americans, I would say, have much stronger claim to sovereignty. In fact, they are sovereign in a sense because, the normal U.S. police, when they go into a reservation, they have to follow the laws and practices of the reservation or the Native American nation that they're in.
Well, if you say, I've been here longer, then Lucifer's claim is pretty solid on that basis because he was there for 5 billion years and Adam was just there for 15 years.
No, I'm saying sovereignty in this case is backed up by treaty between the Native American nations and
but then
and
God,
the United States government.
God, when he gave the commandment, right? At the top of the growth stage, you get the revelation, you are the Lord, but he gave the commandment, right? So he gave Adam sovereignty, right?
Yes, he did, but then Adam lost that sovereignty. Now we're trying to recover it.
But it wasn't
And-
even a
and just-
document. It
and-
was a promise, a covenant between God and Adam.
Yeah, and it's the ability to it's the ability to defend a particular piece of territory.
That's why I'm sovereign.
But you're not.
Let somebody come take me out telling me I'm not sovereign, and God will get them. I'm sovereign.
We'll see what happens.
Well, I don't think I don't think I'm a personality that the government wants to come and get. But if they do, they'll pay, and everybody should act like that. Because if you can't think that your father actually keeps his word, that if you're persecuted, that he comes and he resolves it for you. Yeah, I've also learned that if I say I'm going to resolve it, God doesn't step in the way. I have to tell him I can't handle this. So when I paid my ticket, I'm like, God, they're going to come after me. I have to be the father of I can't take a stand on this, and they're pushing it. So I'm leaving this in your hands.
But for us to have an actual nation called actual sovereign nation of Chonyukuk, it's going to take more than just our saying so.
What's going to happen is push is going to keep coming and shove, and they're going to keep losing. And when they've lost enough, everything will tip towards Chunaguk being a reality.
Right.
But it has to be real for us first.
And by the way, you don't have to be believer in or member of the unification movement in order to be a citizen of Chunaguk, according to the Constitution.
But that's interesting. Don't you have to be?
There's
black
religious
person?
freedom. No, you don't.
No?
No, you don't.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I never thought about that.
There's religious freedom.
Yeah.
You can be Muslim, you can be Buddhist, you can be a Confucian.
Right.
You can be an atheist.
Right. But you're gonna observe Moon Hyung Jin as a successor.
Yeah, you have to, like for example, if someone comes to the United States, yeah, it helps if they accept Donald Trump as their president. Yeah, which many Democrats don't, but they're still citizens because they were born here.
Right.
But when my wife was taking her test for citizenship, she actually had to memorize the name of the governor of Virginia, even.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those tests.
Yeah. So it helps if you do that. But yeah, it's people can become citizens of Chunaguk just, for example, based on the idea that there's no income tax. I'll bet that's going to be a pretty big draw. Of course, the government will establish laws that will say what the qualifications are for naturalization. But I don't think that religion will be a condition for that. And some people who are born into the religion, who are blessed children, later decide they don't want to follow that religion. They're not going to lose their citizenship because of that. But they're still a citizen of that sovereign country.
Yeah, it behooves you to align yourself with the lineage at some point.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is that
benefits.
it's not a condition of citizenship in Chunaguk.
Right.
Chunaguk is a sovereign nation, actual sovereign nation,
But the
with
Constitution.
the ability to fend off invaders. That is a sovereign nation.
Yeah, I think it also has it has the ability to protect certain natural pressures that would lead you to the lineage, like marriage and things like
But
that.
to be able to say, draw lines on the map and say, this is mine, this is
Sure.
ours, this is
Okay.
our country,
Okay.
and we have the means to defend this.
Did you claim? Okay, it was $200 for me when you were fundraising. Did you claim that money before it was in your hands? Of course you did.
You're talking about
Otherwise, you're
something
not-
that.
you know what I'm talking about. Unificationism. I'm talking about father's training. I'm talking about internal before external.
Okay, but I'm talking about the external.
Sure.
All right, let's take a break and we'll come back with more discussions, somehow related to the news after this.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 5th month and 23rd day by the Heavenly Calendar. And my name is Tim Elder. I'm here sitting in for the second king of Cheonryuk, Hyungjin Moon, and I'm joined this morning by Mr. Jamal Johnson, a sovereign supporter of the king. And
You're daggone right.
I want to go to a story now about Amazon buying Whole Foods, the supermarket chain. Amazon is spending $13.7 billion to purchase the Whole Foods chain. And here's some person saying that Amazon could be the third largest grocery retailer by 2021. That's only 4 years away. But this is already causing a great deal of disruption in the retail and food sectors. Amazon is spending $13.7 billion to buy Whole Foods, but its damage to the stock market has already been in the tens of billions. Just among the biggest losers in the retail and food categories in the S&P 500, the market cap destruction for just 20 stocks was $37.7 billion Friday. Amazon has been an unparalleled disruptor for the retail industry, and the fact that it is now turning its focus to groceries has sent a chill through a whole new category. Even the food companies supplying the stores have been slammed. And my wife and I went to the Kmart in Scranton last week. Mm-hmm. Kmart is closing a lot of stores.
Yeah.
2 years ago when we moved here, we discovered that the Kmart in Mount Pocono was closing.
Yeah, the one by me too. East Stroudsburg.
East Stroudsburg, yeah. And so we went down there and we bought a lot of stuff, 50, 60, 70% off as they were closing their doors. And the one in Scranton also now I think is going through a going out of business a sale. Mm-hmm. They're selling all kinds of stuff. So we went there and we stocked up either for next winter or for the end of the world, whichever comes next.
Wow.
Cowen and analysts say the grocery business breaks down into three categories, and Amazon is attacking all three. Perishable food, like meat and milk, non-perishables, like cereal and pasta, and consumer products, like baby products, dish detergent, and shampoo. The analysts said Amazon will likely be ninth largest retail grocer in 2017, but by 2021 they expect it to be number 3, behind Walmart and Kroger. So Amazon is not yet attacking Walmart, I suppose.
What's the impetus for takeovers?
Well, the impetus, it's greater efficiency and.
I mean, to surrender. Okay. What's the reason that somebody surrenders to a takeover?
Well, a surrender takeover when you get when they give you more money than you think you can get by keeping it.
Okay, and what's the motivation for the buyer?
For the buyer,
yeah,
they can do something to this property or they can gain assets that will help them do the. In this case, I think it's because they can get customers. I think in this case it's probably customers, and maybe suppliers, customers and suppliers.
Customers and suppliers.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I don't know the reason for that.
So maybe the current business model has certain weaknesses, so it causes them to.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't think it as a weakness. I think probably Amazon sees opportunities.
To just do.
Here's an area where we can go into and where we can take over a certain sector, and we can increase our bottom line.
Mm-hmm. But that leads towards monolithic monopoly.
Yes, it does.
Monopolistic
And
reality.
so I think Jeff Bezos is extremely rich, and he owns the Washington Post. He purchased that. And I think it is a greater and greater concern that Amazon is taking over more and more sectors. As this article pointed out, it's a disruptor in many sectors, and now they're going into this new sector, the grocery sector.
Amazon is currently seen as a disruptor.
Yeah, that's what
many
this article.
sectors.
Yeah, that's what this article said. That disruptor means that they make big changes.
They got their big behind in the way in a lot of areas.
Well, they're disruptor means that things are going along in a steady status quo way, and then someone comes in and boom changes it.
They
And-
got their big
yeah.
behind
So
in the way.
disruptor is not necessarily a bad thing. Often Amazon has provided a great service for many people, and I, especially living in a rural area like this, I find myself using Amazon, especially Amazon Prime, a lot more than I used to. When you're living in an urban area, you can just run down to the corner store or something, or just to the mall, which is just a few blocks away, and you can buy whatever you want. But here, we have to go half an hour to any kind of a store, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's more convenient to just order something on Amazon and have it delivered a couple days later. And so it's providing a tremendous service. I use it, and I know many other people use it.
So it's not a disruptor for you.
Well, disruptor simply means us changing the status quo. I think I don't see
Oh.
disruptor as being in a negative sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just changing the way things go.
yeah, changing the way things go. But
But look at that characterization, disruptor.
well, that's an economic term.
Oh, okay.
It's a term. It's an economic. It's a term that economists use.
Oh. Disruption.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that sounds like you should get arrested. like
Disturbing the peace.
Like the first story.
Disrupting the market.
Yeah, disrupting the play where they're stabbing Trump. That's a disruption.
That's a disruption, yeah,
Yeah.
but not in an economic sense. Yeah. Yeah.
There used to be this clothing line called Cross Colors in the late 80s, early 90s. And apparently it's a black guy, right? And we were mad when he sold it. I think he sold it to some Jewish owned company. And shortly after they bought it, the quality I think got cheaper and it fell off really fast. But a lot of people were wish he didn't take the cash, because it meant more to them that it was black owned and that it had risen, because maybe we're not all peons if one of our own is doing good and making noise. And no, not with a basketball in their hand or carrying a football and getting their ribs cracked. in the boxing
What
ring.
did he do with the money?
I have no idea.
Yeah. So maybe he started another business. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that
You
clothing
don't
line.
hear about it. You didn't hear about him
You didn't hear
anymore,
about him?
so he wasn't doing us any good in terms of the image
I see.
of the black businessman.
You asked why Amazon bought Whole Foods. You asked me that, and I have the answer.
Okay.
It's a whole article.
Oh, okay.
The retailer's $14 billion bet isn't just about the future of food, it's about the future of commerce, especially for rich urban consumers. And this is a story in the Atlantic Monthly. Amazon announced on Friday morning that it's buying Whole Foods for just under $14 billion, the retailer's largest acquisition ever. The purchase holds implications for the future of groceries, the entire food industry, and, as hyperbolic as this might sound, the future of shopping for just about anything. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. At the simplest level, the deal represents a straightforward confluence of interests. Amazon needs food and urban real estate, and Whole Foods needs help. So I don't understand if they're going to actually keep the brick and mortars. The e-commerce giant has been expanding into groceries and physical locations. I guess they are, okay, including bookstores. Ironically, working itself back into the brick and mortar business that it's also disrupting. Whole Foods, meanwhile, offers the biggest name in yuppie groceries and a fleet of urban locations, which can double as Amazon warehouses. Meanwhile, the grocer is in a tailspin, its stock price cascading as revenue growth has fallen every year since 2012, investors had for weeks been pushing the company to sell itself to a larger grocer like Kroger. That Whole Foods ended up with Amazon is poetic justice, considering that in 2015, CEO John Mackey said Amazon's move into grocery delivery would be Amazon's Waterloo. Doubters of Amazon's strategy can point to the fact that groceries are a terrible, low-margin business. That's true, almost as terrible and low-margin as e-commerce, where Amazon has already demonstrated that it can hypnotize Wall Street's myopic financiers while it spends tens of billions of dollars building a global warehousing and delivery infrastructure for a shopping future that is moving online.
Okay, hypnotize the financiers.
Financiers, yes.
Can-
That's. I think that's symbolically.
Isn't that the point? That's why they do it.
To hypnotize financiers? Well, they're doing it because they want to have these physical locations now that they can use. That they can get to urban yuppie customers. They get to physical locations that could double as Amazon warehouses.
Well, how do you tie in those ambitions with the statement about hypnotizing financiers, Wall Street financiers?
Well, that's this reporter's way of expressing the fact that they're able to inspire. You can say inspire Wall Street's financiers. You could see you don't have
With
to
this
say-
activity.
with his activity, yeah, saying they can sell this to them. They can go into a meeting and say, "All right, we're going to do this and that," and the financiers are saying, "Oh, okay." yeah,
Okay,
that
so
sounds
there's an
good."
impetus to be monolithic.
Yes.
So what are the guards that we have in society and in government? Because there's antitrust laws, right?
Well, the Chonigo Constitution says that that the Congress needs to enact anti-monopoly laws. Yes, anti-monopoly laws. And it also does not allow conglomerates. For example, the type of thing that GE is.
Oh,
That's not allowed under the Chonigo
like
Constitution.
how they broke up. Did they break up Bell? Right?
Oh yes, they did. Yeah.
Back in the 80s or something.
ATT, I guess, or was it Bell? It was Bell. Was it? It was Bell that they
Can't
broke up.
really-
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Bell.
And so we now have a lot of baby bells running around. Yes.
Baby Bells.
Yes.
So we can expect government to do that. But there was this voice I was talking about, the cross colors, that implored the guy not to sell. So there's some other kind of anti-monopoly yearnings that come from the people too, right? Especially if they don't like a loss of variety. They don't like a loss of character. You know what I mean? And if everything's becoming blue and white because Walmart, for example, bought up everything, there's something in the people that don't like that. Like you go to like these little quaint towns, right? That have a plethora of nothing but mom and pop shops.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something about it, right?
There is.
I mean, you want to go to the bed and breakfast and hang out there, like that little town Punxsutawney and that little bed and breakfast from Groundhog's Day,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, look at the people, and they have coffee and they talk at the
Yeah.
and so we're losing that when everything becomes robotic and a system that is run by 20 guys in some room, miles and miles and miles away. And we're losing something, So I guess that sense of culture, like what makes people go to the play, what makes people go to an opera, if we lose that too, and we are, then you won't really care to stop things like monopolies. You won't be offended. Because we're at such a low spiritual state.
Well, that's why citizens of Chonuk need to have the ownership consciousness and to really decide what kind of community they want to live in.
Yeah, I guess that wouldn't happen if you had a broken family, though.
That would be more difficult, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think if you have healthy families, that make up a community, they can decide, do we want a Walmart here? Do we want a McDonald's here? Do we want a Whole Foods here? Do we want Amazon to be buying up everything in our community? They can make that kind of decision, yeah.
Sounds like an attractive reality.
Yep. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back in just a minute or so to go through a few more stories.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 5th month, and the 23rd day by the heavenly calendar. We don't often go to this publication, www.thecannabist.co.
The cannabis.
Yes, thecannabist.co. And here it says that Cannabis Industry Org forms to be ready for national legalization. The National Association of Cannabis Businesses taps DC insider Andrew Klein to help self-regulatory group. And this says cannabis is joining the ranks of financial, advertising, real estate, and alcohol industries with the formation of its first self-regulatory organization. The National Association of Cannabis Businesses launched Thursday with a powerhouse leadership team and an ambitious plan to develop and enforce national standards that will increase compliance and transparency, spur growth, and shape future federal regulations. The NACB slogan is, "Be ready," in anticipation of federal legalization of cannabis. The cannabis industry is on a historic growth trajectory, even as its businesses operate in a fractured regulatory environment and in the face of uncertain federal policy, NACB President Andrew Klein told The Cannabist.
Do you get the need for this regulatory body? What's that about? To regulate standards, to regulate production standards, legal margins for weed quality?
Perhaps, I don't know. Let's see what they're going to actually go in. I don't see that in here. Colorado's pesticide testing and enforcement as an example of a state-developed system that could be exported to a national level. So pesticide testing.
Oh, I see. You don't want to poison people.
Yeah.
While it's gonna while it's legalized, it's gonna be a booming thing, and it's not regulated, so people are gonna get poisoned because
Right.
farmers are cutting corners. Okay.
And maybe some other stuff is being put in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, for example, with heroin, fentanyl is a very big problem, where people are cutting the heroin with fentanyl, or at least mixing some fentanyl into the heroin.
Never heard of fentanyl.
It's a opioid, a synthetic opioid, that apparently is something like 10 times more addictive than heroin.
Okay.
And it comes in from the southern border and also by mail from China. And it's actually one reason that overdose deaths in Pennsylvania rose 37% last year over the previous year. So it's people take heroin and they don't know what they're getting. they don't realize that this that this very addictive drug is mixed in there. And actually, it is so powerful that even first responders who, of course they wear gloves, but they get this fentanyl on their gloves, and it just from the small amount on their gloves causes them to go into kind of an overdose situation. And so it's actually very dangerous even for first
That's
responders.
Crazy,
Yeah.
like the powder or something.
The powder,
residue on-
powder or residue, yes. Just the amount
Just a
that
little trace
traces
quality,
on their
quantity.
yes on their gloves or on their clothes or something like that. I would see how marijuana users, if they want to use it, might want to be sure that they can know what is in the what do you call it? Do you still call it a joint? What's it called these days?
Spliff. No, there was so many. I grew up in Queens, so there was like, oh man, but now I can't remember.
You can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, a joint. They don't call them joints anymore.
Whatever they're called these days.
Yeah, I got a cousin who's an addict. Poor guy.
On marijuana or something else?
Oh yeah, weed and alcohol. And I had this uncle doing something out of a bong when I was 8 years old, and he offered it to me. He said, "When the smoke starts to form, suck in through this pipe." And as soon as the smoke started to form, he yanked the pipe away from me. He's like, "Molly, you don't want to do this." And my, Jamal, last syllable, Molly.
Oh, I
So
see.
that was my nickname
Oh,
as
I
a
see.
kid. But he goes, "I'm a slave."
Now the world knows.
Yeah. he goes, "I'm a slave." And I start thinking of Kunta Kinte. And he goes, "You want to be a slave?" I said, "No." He's like, this cost me jobs. This cost me relationship. This cost me, and I love it. And I can't stop. And it's messing me up. And so he goes, "You want to know the trick to not being a slave like me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to know." He said, "Don't do it the first time." So I've never been high. So it's funny when you're talking about regulation. I'm like, regulation? You're talking about like weed. Okay, yeah, regulation. Because like, how are you going to have a self-regulation culture? Because if you don't look, and this is coming back to family, you're gonna unleash weed when okay, broken family means higher population of lack of love people.
Yes.
High population of lack of love people means no self-regulation people.
Yes.
It's about to get crazy. They're going to kill people.
Yes.
They're going to enable suicide.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be how soon or if this is going to be legalized by the federal government. Jeff Sessions, of course, the current Attorney General, is very hard on enforcing federal laws, and that actually may hasten the legalization. Just a reminder to remind people, in the Chinese Constitution,
Right.
Marijuana would not be banned by the federal government, although it can be regulated. It can be regulated by the federal government. Of course, that would be different from this, which is talking about a self-regulatory body. One example they mentioned was the pesticide tests, I guess, that Colorado has, that they say that could be done on a national level. I think this is going to be kind of a lobbying. This is going to be a marijuana lobbying organization. I'm just imagining how they're going to bribe their congressman with weed, I guess. That was where that chuckle was coming from. The Chinese Constitution assumes that Adam and Eve don't need to be told by the archangel what is right and what is wrong, and that they should get this from their family. As you say, that with broken families, people don't have that.
Yeah.
So if it is legalized without that kind of family base or family structure, I can see very much how.
It might be like the angel of death. So if you don't have the blood on the lintel, you're going to get wiped out.
So in this case, what? If you
No, well, these high addictions, highly addictive psychological family structures, they're going to get wiped out.
I see. Yeah.
They're going to get wiped out because they don't have contained within them that God-given peace that comes through family, that inner peace that allows you to go, yeah, I can live a drug-free life because I'm good. I'm coping well. I learned how to cope well. So people that haven't inherited good coping skills, and so they're coping in a really weak way. Because everybody has, they say the average person has 5 frustrations per day. And it really comes down to whether or not you have stupid, hurt yourself even more coping strategies, or, lift yourself even higher when you feel low coping strategies. And so like I said, it's going to be like the angel of death, because if you don't have that family structure, okay, it's like the angel of death coming through Egypt, okay? And the only people that live are the people that have this blood.
I see. You were asking about fentanyl. I just pulled up an article. Happens to be in the Burlington, Vermont Free Press. A drug 40 to 50 times more potent than pure heroin may be the future of the state's opiate problem, says Vermont State Police Captain John Merrigan. This is not just Vermont, but every state in America now, I think, is faced with this problem. Fentanyl and fentanyl-laced drugs have become more prevalent in Vermont's drug market and markets of surrounding states. Merrigan said law enforcement are more often seeing heroin laced with fentanyl or pure fentanyl being sold as heroin, since it is cheaper and gives addicts a greater high. Fentanyl is considered so dangerous that law enforcement agencies in Chittenden County have changed the way they handle this substance in the field. Fentanyl is being sold as heroin in Vermont, and your end user, he doesn't know if he's using fentanyl or heroin. Merrigan said you can't tell the difference in the bags. Investigators are in the same boat, according to Merrigan, which spells danger for officers investigating drug crimes. Because fentanyl is so much more powerful than heroin, there's a greater chance of overdose if officers get some powder on their skin during field tests. Others can also be affected if officers get powder on their uniforms. Earlier this month, federal officials warned that local police across the country to take added precautions with contact with fentanyl as possible. I was thinking this isn't just a matter of police, because, here in a church, we have all sorts of people coming in, and we've actually had at least one person coming in that we believe was high on heroin at the time that he approached the church. But what if it wasn't heroin? And what if we got some residue on our skin or on our clothes during the process of dealing with him? So I think we also need to know about this drug and know how to handle it. Accidental contact with a quantity equivalent to 5 or 6 grains of table salt can be deadly if inhaled or absorbed through skin abrasions, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration Chief Chuck Rosenberg said when the new warnings were issued.
Okay, so it's got to get to your capillaries.
Yeah. Well, that's one way. Yeah. So if it is inhaled or if it is absorbed through skin abrasions, then just the equivalent of 5 or 6 grains of table salt can be deadly. That can kill you. Last month, an Ohio police officer passed out after accidental contact with fentanyl that got on his uniform during a car search. Investigators typically field test drugs to help establish probable cause for a criminal case more. Sending drugs to the Vermont Forensic Laboratory for the initial test can slow down the criminal process since the lab deals with requests from an agency throughout the state. So,
test kits. That's what I was thinking of. Some kind of a easily duplicatable, duplicable. Test kit, cheap. So if that's your addiction, you can go buy some cheap test kit. I don't know. Because you drop a grain in there, you dissolve something and it changes color, and you go, okay, the degree of color. It's like when you're testing the pool for chlorine quantity, and then you look at it, hold it up to the light, and it says, okay, if it's this shade, you've got this level.
Right.
But I don't have those kinds of drug problems, so it's hard for me to really care. as much as I guess somebody who had rolled around wrestling and in their life with that kind of thing. And I guess I have to balance that because it's apathy that I feel. I do have this, like I was telling you about my cousin. So my other cousin, she opens the door. His door's unlocked, and she finds him lying on the floor, foam coming out of his mouth. And his two twin 5-year-old boys were sitting there watching cartoons. And so apparently, he's got this 2-week custody, and he was like, I'm not going to drink while my sons are here. It's the least I can do because I don't do anything for him because he's an addict, right? I mean, he's trying to be a functional addict, but he's not giving up those things, that weed and that alcohol. But yeah, he was just lucky, God brought my other cousin. She came in, the door was unlocked, and they rushed him in the ambulance and stabilized him. But he was in withdrawal because his brain was so used to those substances, and he really buckled down and went cold turkey. He was really upset with himself for being a bad dad. That he really did commit. He said, well, at least I'm going to give you a 2 weeks drug-free dad. That's where his heart was. But his body was not going to keep up with that because it was just so used to those substances.
And the children?
Of course, they went back with their mom.
But even though they were watching cartoons, I imagine they had some awareness of what was going on.
Well, they're males, We kid him because he named them Jor-El and Kal-El. I don't know if you know, Jor-El is Superman's father, and Kal-El is Superman's name from his home planet. But they're not named Jor-El and Kal-El. It's like Jalil and Khalil. But everybody kids him. You named him Superman and his dad. Like what a ghetto thing to do. But ghetto humor and everything. But
my point was that maybe if those children, when they grow up, they will.
They're boys, so boys process very slow many times. So yeah, it might not show up,
or it might. Yeah,
it may.
Yeah, it might. In my family, my father's father died of alcohol abuse, and so he never drank. My mother's father died of tobacco. So she never smoked. So my father and mother never drank or smoked.
Yeah.
So because of those childhood experiences.
Yeah.
So I think if sometimes a person like that who goes through that kind of experience in the presence of children can give the children a lesson that they won't forget. Even it might appear that they're aware of what's going on, but I think they could have had some kind of awareness.
I can imagine if it's like a 10, 11, 12-year-old, but maybe the 5-year-old, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yes. All right, well, thank you for sharing that. That's very important. Yeah. But they really, I fortunately also, you never got into drugs. I also never got into drugs. Even though my college roommate was kind of the wholesaler of marijuana on our floor, and he kept trying to, it's going to open up your mind. Why don't you try it?
You must have had a revolving door on your dorm room.
He did his selling. He did his selling outside the room, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know where he kept his inventory. I don't think it was in our room, but he was the go-to guy for marijuana, and people basically knew that. He was I went to a Midwest college, and he was a child of a New York psychologist, and I guess he would bring the stuff in from New York or something. But anyway, that being as it may, I was also protected, as you were, and so don't have experience with this, but. Yeah, it's a bad thing to get into, and I'm very grateful to God that He protected me from it. And if you're in it, that's probably a good thing to get out of it. Yeah. You want to say something else, or do you want to take a break now?
Oh,
go ahead and say what you have to say.
What do you think it's really going to be like as Chanoguk is phased in and marijuana is like unleashed?
So I think it depends on the strength of the family. Like you said, I think you said it very well. That it's it's in the family where we need to learn about these things, learn about what to put in our body and what not to put in our body. Not just marijuana, but not just drugs, but also foods.
That's kind of what I was saying about the Constitution protects these natural pressures that lead people towards the lineage.
Yeah.
Like, I want what they have. I'm bothered by me and my kids are getting these bad results. Maybe we should have took that blessing.
Right, yeah. Excuse me. All right, let's take a break now, and we'll be back in a minute or so, I guess. Or is it going to be 5 minutes this time? I guess it's going to be 5 minutes. Yes, and we'll be back with more news as we go through the news of the day.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Forgotten, waiting for doors of our hearts and our homes to open. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love the least of these, then they will be brave and free. Shout your name in victory. When we love the least of these, when we love the least of these, if not us, who will be like Jesus to the least of these? If not us, tell me who will be like Jesus to the least of these. Boys become kings, girls will be queens, wrapped in your majesty. When we love. Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent to grieve? On their own, on the run, when their lives have only begun. These could be our daughters and our sons. And just like a drum, I can hear
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon. And I'm here this morning with Jamal Johnson, who's been kind enough to come out at this early hour to help me digest the news. And we're going to go to an article now about gays in China. Does that sound like an interesting topic?
Ni hao.
China's gays hear wedding bells as Taiwan move fuels hope, it says. Chatting excitedly as they try on their Chinese imperial-themed wedding outfits, Ren Weilian and Zhu Tiantian are as nervous as any couple as they prepare to exchange vows in their lesbian marriage. China does not recognize same-sex unions, but that's not stopping couples like Ren and Zhu from tying the knot in informal ceremonies as the country's sexual minorities quietly assert their rights. That push was given a boost when the top court of neighboring Taiwan last month ruled in favor of legalizing same-sex marriage, triggering a surge in online chatter among Chinese gays who hope they too can someday legally wed. I feel it's quite hard to host a same-sex wedding here because there will be many problems, but I just want us to be able to have our own wedding, said Ren, 26, donning a yellow dress embroidered with phoenix designs. Here in this photograph, couples wave before departing on a cruise from Shanghai to Japan, during which they will have an unofficial wedding ceremony organized by Chinese volunteers from U.S.-founded PFLAG, Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Ru and Jen are among several couples who will officially wed aboard a 5-day cruise from Shanghai to Japan that left port Wednesday, organized by Chinese volunteers from U.S.-founded organizations called Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Is that pronounced flag? I guess flag. Will seek to register the same-sex unions in California, which allows them.
I actually had a seminar, a joint seminar with Flag in one high school in Patterson.
Now, you people don't know what you do. What was the seminar about?
I teach abstinence. I'm a certified abstinence teacher.
Okay, all right. And you had a joint seminar with Flag.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, it's really strange because, you're telling them that you're giving this whole future-oriented discussion about their heart, their vision for the future. This is the strength of abstinence education, that once you can get a kid, they don't have development of prefrontal cortex, so they don't really vividly vision out their future, right? So they borrow yours as an adult. So they borrow from it's your fortune teller. And so they kind of touch back on you in their relationship with you as the trusted adult or parent about the way their future is likely to pan out because they can't see it because they don't have a developed prefrontal cortex. So most of abstinence education is you taking them on a journey of what their future could be like through exercises and discussion. And so when they sit back and they go, yeah, I would like that, and I would like that. And and you say, okay, so would you like to be thwarted? Oh, hell no. Okay, so do you see how you could shoot yourself in the foot with this teenage sex thing? And they go, oh, yeah. And so it's not you're not talking about, you could talk about how great it feels and they realize, oh, that's like candy. That's like, I'm going to eat my candy before I eat the things that are going to make my body healthy. That's so childish. And then they can't see it. But so here I am talking about this wonderful future, and we even get into the third generation. Like, if you set your family up and break that cycle, because we're talking about the hood, right? Break that cycle where you finally have a successful family, and you now 2 generations that completed college, right? How would that be? Oh, that would be great. That would be great. So then the Flag people come on after you, even if the condom people, I've been in seminars where the condom people, the so-called comprehensive sex ed, which is actually contraception only. It's not comprehensive sex ed. It's contraception. But those people, we steal their thunder too. It's an amazing thing. If they go on after us, they come on flat-footed because they're very small-minded. So, like the whole gay marriage thing, it can only take place in a myopic discussion about where you think marriage is about bonding, pair bonding. So they don't even know or care that they're diminishing the fact that marriage is about sex is about bonding, pleasure, and procreation, but marriage is about a proactive responsibility to the next generation, with pleasure as a byproduct or a side note. And so that whole definition of marriage, they don't care about because myopic people don't ever know that they're myopic. So you just have to fight them. And so while you're reading the article, I'm like, who cares? Who cares that they're on a freaking cruise to do something of no civilized consequence? Who cares that they're banging each other? There's no product that comes from that. I'm like, why, as a civilized person who cares about civilization, why am I caused to care about two women bumping and grinding that has no product? It produces no citizen. I just don't care. And the idea that I would be caused to care by them putting an article out there, that means they're just jealous of the attention that heterosexuals get for being in a heterosexual marriage. It looks like it's a high energy attention getting kind of thing. And I think they covet the attention and they don't even understand it. And the homosexual advocate or the homosexuals that do, they support traditional marriage even though they're gay. Because they get it. They're like, yeah, this thing that I did. I've seen a guy get up on in a stage in a rally. I don't know the guy's name. And he said, yeah, I'm gay, but I get it. Marriage is about kids. So I don't want to muscle in on that turf. I don't want my gay folks to tamper with it. And there's right wingers, conservatives and Christians are applauding him because, like Milo Yiannopoulos, did I say his name right?
I don't know how to say it.
Milo. When Milo talks the truth is truth, and people appreciate when you talk the truth. And so I don't really care about gay marriage in China. I care about the fact that the kids coming up don't understand the hype. They don't understand why this myopic group is making such a hype. And they're coveting the hype, the natural hype and appreciation that goes for people that stand their ground and hold their marriages together so that their kids are psychologically stable. And we have psychologically stable citizens on our streets because these people hold their marriages together. So we should celebrate them. So these gay people are like, I want to be celebrated too. I want to be celebrated for my love. And we're like, oh, okay. All right.
Now, in the Tonga Constitution, homosexuality, transgender are not outlawed. Some people misunderstand this, but it's just that the federal government cannot pass any law, Congress cannot pass any law that would support any lifestyle other than monogamous homosexual marriage. Heterosexual marriage. I'm sorry.
Rio on the correction button.
I got some big pushback on that. Yes, on that mistake. Monogamous. I'm so upset now. I can't even say it.
Rio's not gay Jared.
So cannot have the government supporting any other type of lifestyle. All right. Thank you very much for that explanation. That was very good. Let's go to the next article. Lead found in 20% of baby food. Rodman returns from North Korea without meeting friend for life Kim. I guess this visit didn't work out the way that
Oh, he didn't get
was.
to meet him
He did not get to meet him. He gave the art of the deal.
because he was, he was strapped. He was strapped with a bomb.
He was.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
But see, it doesn't matter if it's really there. The fact that what do you call him?
Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un, yeah.
Kim Jong-un
Uh-huh.
believes stuff like
I
that.
see.
See, he's paranoid, so he can't enjoy
He is-
his friend right now.
Yeah, he was. There was an article yesterday that said that he's increasingly paranoid. Yes,
Yeah.
that was a quotation from the National Intelligence Service of South Korea.
Yeah, you
which
gonna
was
trust
making-
some crazy black guy in wartime, like when the heat's up like this? No way.
I don't know why he didn't get to meet him.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Inferno in London. Protest as anger grows over London Inferno. And I want to talk about how some of this anger is actually not justified. Because
Speaking of crazy black guys,
Okay.
there's a tremendous amount of I found racism
Mm-hmm.
in Asia.
that is a fact, yes.
Yeah.
That is a fact.
I remember my wife was
Mm-hmm.
treated like crap in Hong Kong. I mean, the yellower looking
Mm-hmm.
Asians and the browner looking Asians. I was like, that hurt my heart. That hurt my heart. This guy, my wife wanted hot for her noodles. She just wanted hot water. So she goes over to a cafe, and the guy goes, like, hot water, right? And my wife came across the concourse. My wife's really tough lady, so, and she's resilient, So seeing her in tears, I'm like, what happened to you, honey? And she was like, I just asked him for water, and he was so mean. I'm like, what happened? He was like, so I had already heard because his sister works in Hong Kong and how she was all a second-class citizen and all that. So I went over there, and the other guy saw that I was waiting to confront that guy because in China, I'd be under the freaking jail, and I'm not coming out, right? So I have no idea how this is gonna pan out. But the other guy goes, and he sees it, and he has compassion. He did. I didn't even ask, and he just gives me the water because he had watched the other episode with my wife, so he knew it was gonna go down.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, you made your people look good. Yeah.
There is racism in Asia. That's for certain. That has been said many times. Yeah.
So Rodman, he just gets the curb this time.
You think it was racism they didn't get to meet Kim Jong Un?
No. I think he I don't know.
Maybe if the Chicago team, the Chicago
Bulls?
Bulls had won this time,
Uh-huh.
maybe then Kim Jong Un is a Chicago Bulls fan.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe then he could have met. I think.
He's petty like that?
I'll bet he is, yeah.
Oh. He probably thought Rodman was strapped with a bomb.
I want to go to the
He had
fire in
fentanyl
London.
on his sleeve.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's so there was this fire in London on what was that, Wednesday, I guess. In fact, we were covering it live here on the Wednesday King's Report, showing a live stream from London during this hour. And so now the fire's out, and I guess the official death toll, the last I saw, was at 30. Is it still 30?
Mm-hmm.
And is expected to go
wow.
much higher. 70 are feared dead, but I still hear people saying 100 or more. But anyway, so Theresa May goes to visit the place, and she hears cries of coward and shame on you after meeting Grenfell victims, Grenfell being the name of the tower. But as I was watching this on Sky News, what bothered me was that after this, and people were put out of their houses and so forth, and so one of the big issues now is where is the government going to house these people that have now lost their homes? And also, of course, they need lots of things like food and everything. And private citizens from around Britain have been driving there with their vans and with all sorts of stuff. And one reporter said that van after van was coming in. with these supplies, and people were receiving things from these private donations. But people were then saying, well, where's the government? Why is the government leaving it up to these private individuals to do this? Why is the government not doing anything? And to me, that reflected a mentality that we're trying to get rid of in Cheongguk, which is a mentality that the government is our parent, and if we get in trouble, we just have to go to the government. I thought it was great that private citizens were doing this, and it really shows the charitable nature of the British people, which is really wonderful. And I think also Americans, are also very charitable as well. When there's a tragedy like this, people really come together. So in a sense, they're taking over a function that over the last 100 years we've become accustomed to assigning to the government, but really should not be assigned to the government. It really should be done in the private sector.
But I think you're also looking at the fact that it is not good at that responding, right? Right?
Well, the government is not good at responding. In this case, people are pointing out that the British government is not responding very well to this. But my point is that we shouldn't be expecting the government to respond.
Yeah, well, it's just that girl that her girlfriends tell her that she's dating a guy that's going to dump her. And she just doesn't want to believe it. She just doesn't want to believe it. And then he slaps the crap out of her and sleeps with her sister, and then she's guilty. She said, you done with him now, right, girl? And she's like, no, he said sorry. He's not sorry, right? So people who are addicted, there's something called love addiction, that people can't get away from a person, but you should get out of that situation.
So people are love addicted to the government. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but it's an addiction because look at the insanity of scientific process. You try one light bulb, it breaks. You learn from the broken shards, and you try better, right? Something that gives you new inspiration, and keep trying, right? But you can't actually advance if you can't tell the truth about your findings, your last results.
That's right. Yeah.
So they're not telling themselves the truth. This episode right here showed you that let's go back to the boyfriend. That boyfriend is bad for you, right? He kicked you in the stomach while you were pregnant. Isn't that enough? No, he was just mad.
It was my fault.
I upset him.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have talked to him right?
Right.
It's the same thing. So where does it go? It goes, when people are in it, it goes to ultimate destruction. And I've been thinking about why the prepared people, like Koreans, you know what I mean, prepared people who are prepared, they have to undergo persecution because they have to get to the point where they realize that the archangel is effed up. No, and it's really those feminine voices going, no, we'll give him one more chance. No, I think, I'll forgive him this time again. And there's women have an incredible ability to flex and bend, like the elasticity of their sexual organ, and accommodate, and just stretch and stretch and stretch. But the archangel, he stretches till it rips and it tears, and they're in pain and on the verge of dying, like comfort women, right? And drag your ass, on the back of the truck, right? And then you realize, okay, I need Adam, right? So this is the plight of the people who are being prepared to receive the Messiah, because they have to learn to get off those addictions, to be addicted to like systems that suck. So I do think it's like an addiction. And I do think that it comes to like some really, really nasty circumstances before you wake up. And I really do think that that's what's going to happen.
Would you say that Family Federation members are suffering from a similar addiction?
Wow, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I would think that it's addiction to an organization, and like you said, they're stretching. The Han mother says all sorts of crazy things, but they stretch. They're able to justify it. It says, or sometimes they say, oh, well, she only said it once. That's one
Right.
thing I've heard. The other thing I've heard is, oh, well, it's not on video. That's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making a great point.
And another thing is, well, maybe she's one with Father, and so maybe it's all right for her to say that.
Yeah.
And then finally they say, well, let's just follow our conscience, and we'll pick and choose from Father's words of what we want to follow. So
Yeah.
I see people stretching incredibly. So as you were talking, that's what I was reminded of.
Well, then you have to project what the breaking point would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess when you have no more children committed to your system,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they are committed to your system, but your system had to accommodate their desire to go out and sleep around.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And their desire to pick and choose
Right.
their spouses. So nobody feels like the blessing's a gift from anybody but their own egos now.
Yeah.
And then you go right back to the ravages of secular society.
Right. Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will wake up along the way, but like the 10 tribes of Israel, probably the vast majority will simply disappear into the woodwork and will be lost to history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back in a minute or so with more news from the day, together with Jamal Johnson.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday, June 17th, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi, 5th month, and 23rd day by the heavenly calendar. I want to go now to some statements made by President Trump yesterday regarding the relationship with Cuba. Here, this is the Daily Mail of UK reporting on this. Trump slams Obama's deal with Cuba and says he's canceling it as he puts Castro on notice to the delight of Little Havana's exiles. Little Havana, of course, being a part of Miami. Trump announced Cuban policy change at the Manuel Artemet Theater, which is named after a Cuban-American Bay of Pigs veteran. Break with Obama is primarily over tourism. Obama's administration looked the other way, and spending at military-run establishment. This will be barred. Commercial flights and cruise liners will still be allowed to ferry Americans to the island nation, 90 miles off of Florida. Passengers will face a threat of a Treasury audit if they do not have a government-approved reason to be there, however. American visitors still allowed to bring back all the rum and cigars they can manage. The U.S. Embassy in Cuba will also remain open. It is at the heart of the deal Trump said he was canceling. President Trump said Friday that he was canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba and putting new travel and trade restrictions in place. Barack Obama's agreement with Raul Castro's government led to an increase in violence and instability in the country, Trump said, and enriched the brutal communist regime that imprisons its own people. They fought for everything. We just didn't fight hard enough. But now those days are over. Now we hold the cards. We now hold the cards, Trump said to the delight of Cuban exiles in Miami's Little Havana community. Therefore, effective immediately, I am canceling the last administration's completely one-sided deal with Cuba. Trump said the U.S. will not negotiate a new deal with Cuba until it releases the political prisoners it claims it does not have, turns over fugitives from American justice, hands over military criminals, respects freedom of assembly and expression, and holds free and fair elections. The ban on tourism will be upheld until that time, and American companies will be barred from engaging in financial transactions, with the Cuba's military-operated businesses, he said. And there's, I guess, this rally in Little Havana. Photographs here. At a rally last September in Miami, Trump said he would scale back the sitting president's engagement with Raul Castro's government. He returned Friday to make good on the promise that Cuban exiles and Republican members of Congress with Cuban heritage applauded. This is very much a promise that he made, that he took seriously, that he kept. And the basic policy driver was his concern that the previous policy was enriching the Cuban military, an official said. That's the opposite of what he wanted to achieve. The U.S. president announced plans today to crack down on Americans who contribute to the Cuban military's coffers by spending money at their establishments when they visit the country, often in violation of the rules set forward by the U.S. government. Commercial flights and cruise liners will still be allowed to ferry Americans to Cuba, but passengers will face the threat of a Treasury audit if they do not have a government-approved reason to be there. Trump will not end the Obama-era policy that allows American visitors to bring back all the rum and why do they say the same thing twice? And he's not closing down the embassy. First steps, just the first steps in reversal of Obama's policies. You will see that going forward, the new policy under the Trump administration will empower the Cuban people, a U.S. official said Thursday. An official told a reporter on Friday who characterized the move Trump is making as less dramatic than the administration was casting them. I don't think I would classify them as small. I think the changes are very targeted and the changes are specific and they have a clear intent, which is to put pressure on the regime and to support the people. Cuba has been a problem for a long time, since, late 50s, from Kennedy administration. So I guess that started in 61. So from the early 60s. And of course the whole Bay of Pigs fiasco. But more than that, I think people always, there's an argument as to whether economic sanctions work or not. If a country is doing bad and you put economic sanctions on them, does that contribute to their doing less bad? South Africa is used as an example where sanctions worked. That sanctions were placed on the apartheid regime, and today we have a different South Africa. And some people say that sanctions were a big part of that change. I see Cuba as an example of the failure of sanctions, where Cuba went communist, so it went into the Soviet bloc, so we put sanctions on it, and 50 years later or more, it's still communist. So the change that we were hoping for 50 years ago has not occurred.
If the DP says that Satan will be consigned to a bottomless pit because nobody's going to have give and take with him anymore, right? The sanctions. Well, sanctions don't work if they can, if the bad guy has an enabler somewhere.
And in case of Cuba, it's Europe. Yeah. Europe has always, and Canada too, to a certain extent, but they've always sort of given a way for people to get around U.S.
That's why they so heavily invest in dumbing people down, because you have to be intelligent to see the big picture that can dominate leftism. So leftists have to have stupid people. So, because if you're smart, and you go, and they, like I said before, evil will look you in the eye and say, "Yeah, I know it's a lie," but they don't, and you're not breaking through with them. So, I'm not going anywhere. Go, oh, sanctions, okay. You see those stupid people over there? I know they're stupid. You know they're stupid. You know I made them stupid through my propaganda. So you see them over there? That's why I'm not going anywhere.
So how would you, what kind of policy should the U.S. Pursue in order to bring freedom to Cuba, to the Cuban people?
I think you by being committed to the principles that work, and free market works because they go in that territory, they get better outcomes, they get more bang for their buck, and then they want to study that system and be a part of it.
My idea is to trade with them, actually, to build up the middle class through trade. So I think I'm against sanctions in case of Cuba.
Okay, so you make them economically strong.
Right.
You do absolutely nothing to keep them from dumbing down there, right? Because
Because I'm actually opening up the country to information from outside, because when you trade, you're traveling back and forth.
So you're saying the real key is getting information in and out.
Getting information in and out and also enriching the middle class.
So you're saying trade makes people smarter because it makes people more economically.
Well, it exposes them to the outside world for certain, yeah.
So ultimately, the best information that you hope would get in is how much better Americans are doing than their people.
Well, Americans and Europeans and so forth, and also by enriching the middle class, you get a class of people who then have a vested interest in the future of the country and who want to take part in decisions that will determine, that will influence their businesses.
Okay, so let's say you wipe away the grime from the window and they're looking on the other side, but they're seeing the carbon copy. They're seeing the exact same thing because we're being communist.
Oh, the U.S. is?
Yeah.
Well, in comparison to the United States is not a carbon copy of Cuba.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm just saying the more we slip, the less.
Yeah, the more we slip, that's true.
The less effect your opening up is going to have.
But I'm saying that sanctions on Cuba over the last 50 plus years have been a failure. And I don't agree with the Obama administration either. I don't. We should not be enriching the military there, because that only increases the oppression. But we should have policies that target private businesses there, and for example, allowing people to send money back to their families in Cuba, for example, and also American tourists going there, and one of the first sort of capitalist things that happen in a country, first of course, is food, where people start, they grow their own food and then they sell it in
How about like
markets,
leaving
but
them
also
to their
tourism.
own devices? What's wrong with that?
So have sanctions and just
What do you
ignore
think
them?
of isolation?
Isolation? But it's not going to be isolated, because Europe
No,
is not
our isolation.
that we isolate Cuba, right?
No, that we get out of other people's business and let them, because basically what people are buying around the planet are various pitches about what good government is, right? And so the American Constitution is a product, right? So if we muddy the reviews of the product, then we're not serving ourselves very well. And if we muddy or I don't know.
So are you talking for or against sanctions?
I'm asking you what you think about isolation, America just paying attention to itself.
But we're still going to be trading, right, with somebody. We're still going to be selling goods, exporting goods, and importing goods, right? We're not going to be so isolated.
Who is the most isolationist U.S. president? Because I'm not
all
sure
45?
about.
Probably Washington. I don't know. But even Washington did not outlaw trade. He just said, "Don't get involved in the wars of Europe."
I don't know. I guess I just have to go by what I understand of human nature, and I guess I'll be saying, look, if I don't let you contaminate my experiment, and I don't I don't infuse your bad experiment with things that people could misconstrue as good results, the free market will work pretty well because we have the best constitution. But if I'm stupid enough to make your crappy constitution look like it yields good results because I'm actually feeding you from the teat, right? People will make the mistake of thinking that your constitution yielded those good results. And it will delay the conviction that people have that the U.S. Constitution is best. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like, hey, why don't you hang out over there, get your results? This is how I am with Family Fed, too. I mean, some people, we have to reach out to our brothers and sisters. And I'm like, let them get their bad results. They really want it. I remember this. I remember this stupid article that Mike Mickler wrote. Stupidest freaking article I ever saw.
Tell us about it.
The era of open blessings.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then this other stupid idiot Dan Pfefferman going. Once you track it down his logic, he actually doesn't believe in physical salvation.
Well, yeah, that's right.
So the two of them
Yes.
are throwing the blessing under the bus, and it's logically sound to them.
That's why I said in the previous segment, flexibility. Yeah, they're flexing their logic in all which ways in order to preserve the organization.
So I'm like, okay. You know, and then these people say, no, we have to love them. No, you're enabling them to think that the infusions that you give them, they're going to mistake it as good results of their policies. So you have to leave somebody to self-destruct at some point. And that's what they do in intervention with drug addicts. At some point, the families do intervention, which is not nice.
Okay, it sounds like we're talking about Illinois again. Go ahead, keep
You
on
know,
going.
it's all the same thing,
It's all the
right?
same
It all
thing, yes.
goes back to the garden, right?
It's all the same thing, yeah.
But family comes in and says, look, you've been giving us a really crappy existence being your family member. So we're going to put you on notice now. If you don't do this, this, and this, we're not going to do this, this, and this. And if they stick to their guns, they know two things are going to happen. The guy's going to completely self-destruct, or he's going to face the music, right?
Yes.
But being in this midway position is not helping him, and it's not helping them. So when you talk about being in are you in a midway position when you just say I'm against sanctions? Because on the flip side, you're allowing them the problem with the midway position is getting good results and not knowing who to attribute it to. That's why God can't claim it, right? Satan claims the results. He says these results are a product of my policy, right? I gave you this coping strategy and it led to these good results. And God's like, I got to get out of here. So God doesn't touch it until you separate from Satan, get out of the midway position. And then you can see good results, bad results. Wow, God's really better. And God likes that. So he likes separation from Satan, right? So, you know, this midway position, you know, Eve likes the midway position. She, like Cook says, she's the one shopping for a bigger, better deal. So she likes the possibility that both men are going to be good for her. You know, she's shopping, right? But she has to say, okay, I'm not shopping anymore. I'm committed. And once she's committed, so this is not midway position. This is, okay, Archangel, you want to date me like you're actually a human male? Okay, you go in the corner, run out of energy, run out of battery power, right? And you decide whether or not you want to play the role of my servant or try to keep taking me out on a date. But he's going to run out of energy because she's committed, because she figured out where the real juice comes from. But if she doesn't figure out where the real juice comes from, she's going to stay in a stupid midway position, and she's going to linger. And you know what's going to happen? If Adam stays strong, he's going to get another woman. And God's going to give him another woman who doesn't have that stupid problem. So I figure on it with international, you know, just let them screw up. Let them crash. But I sound pretty daggone mean, right?
Well, I understand. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, and Venezuela obviously is like that, and I don't think that we should be helping Venezuela out of its current predicament, where it's descending more and more into chaos. In the case of Cuba, I just think that the existing policy that's been in effect for the past 50-some years, you have to say that it's a failure because it has not produced the result that it was intended to produce. After 50 years of sanctions, 50-plus years of sanctions, and that was one reason I think that Obama was able to justify his actions. But Trump is turning around and saying, wait a second, Obama's actions have only enriched the military, which actually enriches the part of that society that we don't want to enrich. So I'm saying that if you allow trade with the private sector in Cuba, with private individuals in Cuba, and also if you allow people to go back and forth, that exposes them to information and to experiences, and that's going to create a desire within more and more Cuban people to have democratic freedoms. To have, by democratic freedoms, I mean to be able to mostly to participate in the running of their country.
So what do you think about China? China is like sort of capitalist, not completely communist, right? Yeah. So do you see that as a midway position?
Yeah, China is, and they tried this in the 19th century too, where they said, okay, we'll adopt Western institutions, but not the Western philosophies that were the basis of those institutions.
In other words, I want the benefits of a good God.
They want a political dictatorship and economic freedom.
God's fruits, Satan's laws.
God's fruits, Satan's laws. That's what it is. Yeah.
Which confuses people.
And it doesn't work because it's a contradiction, and it falls apart. And China already experienced this falling apart in the 19th century, but they're doing it again. And it works for a while. And it works in some small communities, like in Singapore, for example. Singapore is basically a dictatorship, or at least an authoritarian government, but they have a very high level of economic freedom, one of the highest levels of economic freedom in the world. But you can't even chew gum there. You cannot even if you put gum on the sidewalk or something like that, they'll arrest you or give you a ticket or something. And certainly you cannot have opposition but that is a very small society where the government is able to exercise a great deal of control. But in China, it's going to fall apart. I don't know when, but it will fall apart. That's been the pattern of Chinese history, for one thing.
Well, people, when they're about to fall apart, I used to be a lifeguard. They try to take the lifeguard down with them.
That's exactly
right.
And
sometimes you have to punch them. You have to punch them to let them know that you're in control.
I was also trained as a lifeguard, although I never had a job as one. Punching them was not one of the lessons.
Well, they don't tell you that officially. But the New York City lifeguard training program, the trainers themselves, when they're in like some unofficial tone, like after you take
Actually,
the test,
I was taught to if someone tries to take you down with them, to go down. Go down. And
well, you can do that too,
The guy will then try to climb to the top, and then you control them. But anyway, you and I went to different schools of lifeguarding, obviously.
I never punched anybody in the water.
Okay. Thank you for putting that on the record.
I never punched anybody in the water.
But when people get desperate, yes, they will take other people down with them. That's right.
And
that is anyone who is trained to be a lifeguard is warned of that.
So when China goes down, what's it liable to try to do?
And they have some big weapons that they can try and take the world down with them. Yes. Right now we're worried about the North Korean missiles, but China's got some missiles.
Maybe if we don't perturb them, just act like it's not happening.
You think so?
I don't know. Because if you got a woman and she's like losing her husband, and you say, "Oh, things going on in your house are pretty crappy, huh?" And then all that angst, she's just, instead of aiming it at herself, where she's gonna think, maybe I should have listened to my girlfriends, that I shouldn't have married that guy. I shouldn't have been dating him back then. Now she's gonna, for the first time in her life, maybe take inventory. But you stepped in and she threw all that angst at you. You're the problem. Anyway. Things to come. Yeah.
Well, this has been a very interesting morning. I appreciate your coming out this morning.
Thanks for
We've
having
had some
me.
very interesting discussions, but I think we're at the end of our period, our report this morning. And I want to thank everyone who joined us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did and Jamal did. And the King will be giving his normal Sunday service tomorrow at 11 a.m., and that'll be broadcast live on YouTube, of course. And then he'll be back on Monday at 5 a.m. with the King's Report. Thank you very much, Jamal, and thank you very much to everyone. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.